Chapter 984. In the blink of an eye, Lin Muyu and the others had stayed in the Nimble Sparrow Castle for half a month. During this time, Tang Xiaoxi's Overgod spark had gradually grown stronger, and her ability to control the Overgod spark had also improved. However, the appearance of the Overgod spark would surely attract the covetous eyes of others, so it was more important for her to become stronger as soon as possible. Early in the morning, dew dripped down the leaves of the spirit orchard and onto the stone platform, producing a crackling sound. Beside a stone table, Lin Muyu and Feng Zhanlin sat facing each other, sipping tea. "How is Miss Xiaoxi?" Feng Zhanlin asked, intentionally or otherwise. "Her cultivation progress is not bad." Lin Muyu smiled. "I heard that Miss Xiaoxi's Overgod spark has evolved into the Overgod spark? As expected, I still managed to hide it from you." Feng Zhanlin couldn't help but burst into laughter. "That's a good thing. There are only 12 people in the 3 realms with the Overgod spark. Miss Xiaoxi's future achievements will be immeasurable. Also, young hero Lin, your cultivation is also unfathomable. As a god emperor, I can't see through your cultivation at all. I wonder what grade of young hero Lin's divinity is." Feng Zhanlin had never seen Lin Muyu fight, so he naturally didn't know what grade of divinity Lin Muyu's divinity was. "Take a guess, Territory Lord?" "Actually, I've already seen through it. Miss Xian's divinity is also an Overgod spark, and it's a light Overgod spark that's even more profound than Blazing Angel Xian's divinity. Since Miss Xian and Miss Xiaoxi are so obedient to you, young hero Lin's divinity must not be lower than theirs, right?" Lin Muyu smiled but didn't deny it. Feng Zhanlin was still unwilling to give up. "Young hero, can you tell me?" Young hero Lin's strength and cultivation concerns the future of the Nimble Sparrow Castle. "Alright, since the Domain Lord wants to see it, then let the Domain Lord have a look." Lin Muyu didn't get up. She just raised her right palm and a small fire rule spirit bead condensed in her palm. It circled around her fingertips like a marble she played with when she was young. Then another frost rule spirit bead appeared. Then a wind rule spirit bead appeared. "Is this a forged immortal fate?" Feng Zhanlin was dumbfounded. Even the deities of the god realm knew that the highest number of forged immortal matrices could be condensed was 3 spirit orbs of law. This was a well-known fact. However, right at this moment, another spirit bead of law that flickered with lightning appeared. Overgod spark." Feng Zhanlin's expression was one of shock. Someone who could condense 4 spirit beads of law was definitely someone with a forged immortal physique or above. However, one spirit orb after another leaped out of Lin Muyu's palm. In the blink of an eye, 6 spirit orbs of law appeared. This was already the limit of spirit orbs that could be condensed by someone with an Overgod spark. No, it can't be any more. Feng Zhanlin's hand that was holding the teacup was already trembling. It was already a huge matter that 2 blazing angels had come to the primordial mystery realm, and now there were 2 Overgod spark possessors. This was simply unprecedented. If Lin Muyu was an existence that surpassed the Overgod spark, then this was simply too shocking. Buzz buzz. A faint golden light trembled and another spirit orb of law appeared in Lin Muyu's palm. This was a spirit orb of the law of life and it was extremely translucent. Feng Zhanlin's face was deathly pale. How is this possible? However, when Lin Muyu condensed the 7th spirit orb, she stopped circulating her qi. She closed her palm and the spirit orb all entered her body. She smiled. "Domain Lord Feng, do you still want to watch?" Feng Zhanlin's body trembled as he took a few steps back. He knelt on one knee and raised his head. "Young hero, is your godhead really the sovereign godhead?" "That's what everyone else said. I think it's true." Lin Muyu smiled warmly. He wasn't worried that Feng Zhanlin would steal his godhead. Firstly, he might not succeed. Secondly, Feng Zhanlin was a straightforward and fierce person. He wasn't the kind of person who would steal treasures. If he was, he would have already stolen Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's godhead. Looking at Feng Zhanlin's respectful expression, Lin Muyu said, "Although I have the sovereign godhead, I'm just someone who hasn't stepped into the god emperor realm. Domain Lord, you don't have to be like this." Feng Zhanlin frowned. "No, the sovereign godhead is where the king's way lies. Since young hero Lin has come to the Lingke castle, it's an opportunity. I, Feng Zhanlin, am willing to lead everyone in the Lingke castle to swear loyalty to you, the future king of the gods." No, I'm not the king of the gods. I'm just the left marshal of the Eastern Heavens realm. The left marshal? Feng Zhanlin glanced at the Xianyuan sword on the table that Lin Muyu had placed on the table. If I may be so bold as to ask, who are the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and Fairy Xiao to you, young hero? The Demon Emperor is my sworn brother. Xiao is more or less an elder sister. I see. No wonder. Feng Zhanlin was a little suspicious. Young hero, why did you and 3 women with extraordinary cultivation come to the ancient secret realm? To gain experience. Lin Muyu said simply. We all want to improve ourselves as soon as possible. That's true. It's indeed a pity that you have the Master Godhead and the Supreme Godhead, but you haven't advanced to the God Emperor realm. It seems like Blazing Angel Xian is accompanying you to protect you. That's right. Lin Muyu laughed. In her heart she was secretly thinking that the truth of the matter was that her group was protecting Xiao. Stretching her arms, Lin Muyu said, real improvement and experience need to be completed through battles. I would like to ask, Domain Lord, is there anyone nearby that I would like to challenge? Challenge? Feng Zhanlin frowned. If young hero really wants to challenge someone, then I can provide you with a target. Please speak. There is a mountain 150 miles southwest of the Domain Castle. The mountain range is submerged by water. Originally there were countless spirit fruits and some hunters living there. But after an ancient beast came, it caused a flood and all the hunters were drowned. The Spirit Sparrow Castle once sent people to encircle it, but the beast was very powerful. My younger brother Feng Zhanhai was worried that there would be too many casualties, so he didn't kill the beast. Oh? What beast could be so powerful? That thing is called Fuzhu. It is a beast that looks like an ancient divine deer. It runs like the turbulence of the Jianghu and its cry can summon hail, rain and snow. Its frost power is imbued with divine power. At that time it even attacked and killed 3 of our hierarch level experts. If young hero really wants to go, then I will accompany you to ensure your safety. Even Feng Zhanhai is no match for it. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded, pondered for a moment and said, I'll have to trouble you, Region Lord. I'll go with Little Een and the others to kill this vicious beast myself. You don't have to come with us, you can trust us. That's true. After all, you have Lord Blazing Angel with you. Saying that, Feng Zhanlin knelt again and said, Young hero Lin, since you are the left marshal of the Heaven Realm, I, Feng Zhanlin, beg you to make an exception and allow all members of the Spirit Sparrow Castle to join the East Heaven Realm. Zhanlin is willing to offer the Spirit Sparrow Castle and be loyal to young hero. Don't call me young hero. Call me Lin General. I'm not young anymore. I can't call you young hero anymore. Lin Muyu smiled. In fact, she was already 35 years old. So Lin General agrees to be the Domain Lord of the Spirit Sparrow territory? No, I won't be the Domain Lord. Feng Zhanlin, it's more suitable for you to be the Domain Lord. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, I know you want to leave the secret realm and return to the Heaven Realm to obtain eternal life. However, I can't make the decision for now. You have to wait until I contact the Demon Emperor and Xiao. I don't know how to leave the secret realm, so I might need help from the outside world. Yes. Feng Zhanlin's eyes emitted a faint light. Lin Muyu's words were equivalent to saying that there was still some hope. At noon, when they returned to the courtyard, Lin Muyu told them about Feng Zhanlin's story about Fuzhu. Immediately, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan agreed. How could they miss out on such an exciting and joyful event? Thus, they left the Spirit Sparrow Castle in the afternoon and flew southwest. Before dusk, the 4 of them arrived at a body of water. The mountain range had become a lake and the water seemed to be spreading. There were corpses, animals and humans floating in the water. Swoosh. Lin Muyu landed and walked on the water. Ripples appeared under her feet as she used her spirit pulse technique to search for the aura of the beast. However, she couldn't find any clues. She couldn't help but frown and say, Strange, I can't find any aura at all. Me too. Qin Yin landed and stood shoulder to shoulder on the water. Looks like this beast is good at hiding its aura. Tang Xiaoxi blinked and said, Did the Feng Territory Lord say anything about Fuzhu before we left? I'll give you a brief introduction. Fuzhu's form is that of a deer and he has 4 purplish-red horns. These 4 horns are named Hail, Thunderbolt, Swift Flame, and Aurora. Each of them contains different powers and Fuzhu can walk on water and control the rivers of the world. He is truly the Water King. Water King. What a strange title. Qin Yin smiled faintly with dimples. Xian smiled and said, since Xiaoxi has already advanced to the overgod personality, we should let Xiaoxi make the first move after we find Fuzhu. We'll wait for an opportunity. Yes. Lin Muyu said. However, Feng Zhanlin said that Feng Zhanhai had come to kill Fuzhu before but failed. Instead, Fuzhu killed a few godly venerables. We shouldn't underestimate this thing. Yes. At that moment, Qin Yin suddenly opened her blazing eyes and looked into the distance. Brother, you look. There seems to be someone there. Oh. Everyone looked over. Sure enough, there was a crying sound coming from the rushing river. A 7 or 8-year-old girl wearing a hunter's robe was hugging a broken piece of wood and crying for help. Quick, save her. Wait. Qin Yin suddenly pulled Lin Muyu's arm and said, look over there. In the sky, a figure slowly descended. It was an extremely handsome young man wearing a white satin gown. His feet were wearing white boots. He floated on the water's surface and landed beside the girl. He stretched out his hand and said in a very gentle and pleasant voice, come with me. I'll take you to a safe place. Chapter 985. His movements were very delicate, causing Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Xian to be a little stunned. This man's words and actions could only be described as elegant, and it was very unusual elegance, as if he was an otherworldly master. Every movement of his was filled with elegance and immortality. Even the smile on his face was so easygoing and graceful. The girl was completely stunned and she slowly stretched out her palm that had turned blue from the cold and asked, Big brother, who are you? The man smiled, I'm the big brother who is planning to save you. Come with me, the flood is rising faster and faster, I'll send you to the high ground. When the man took the girl, who was completely drenched in sweat, into his arms, the girl seemed to be receiving the softest protection in the world and she hugged him tightly. There's such a person in this world. Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes widened and she was a little dazed as she watched. Qin Yin also murmured, and yes. Even Xian took a second look at the man and said with a smile, interesting. Lin Muyu frowned, looked at Qin Yin and then looked at Tang Xiaoxi and said, Hey, are you two bewitched? Don't be love-struck in front of me. Qin Yin pouted and pulled his hand. Big brother, that person is really different, what do you think? That's true, but, Xian, who was at the side, said with a smile, Xin, try to close your eyes and look again. Qin Yin closed her flaming eyes and was momentarily stunned. If she used her mind's eye to look, the scene would be completely different, and it shocked Qin Yin slightly and she bit her red lips, not knowing what to say. However, Tang Xiaoxi, who was at the side, was still looking at the elegant and handsome man with a silly smile. At this moment, the elegant man flew over the water with the girl in his arms, and looked at Lin Muyu and the others, saying, Everyone, the mountain has been flooded and there are many rapid whirlpools in the water. You'd better not take risks and quickly go to the high ground, it's safer there. Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold and she didn't speak. Instead, Qin Yin held Lin Muyu's hand and smiled and said, Big brother, then let's go to the high ground together? And the four of them flew up together and followed the man to the high ground. They landed on the side of the nearest mountain and were surrounded by lush greenery. The man put the girl down and immediately went to pick up some dry firewood. With a wave of his hand, a flame entered the pile of firewood and burned it. He used the firewood to dry the wet clothes of the girl. The man stirred the firewood and asked, What region you are from and why did you come to such a dangerous place? Xian chuckled, Spirit Sparrow region. Oh, it's Lord Feng Zhanlin's territory. The elegant man chuckled, No wonder you're so calm, you haven't told me what you're looking for here. We're looking for a giant deer. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and smiled, A giant deer called Fuzhu. What if we find him? Then we'll kill him. Qin Yin didn't open her eyes, but there seemed to be a murderous intent under her gently trembling eyelashes. The elegant man couldn't help but laugh. This lady is as beautiful as a fairy, I've never seen such a beautiful woman, but I didn't expect her words to be so murderous. Tang Xiaoxi also felt strange. Xiaoyin, you seem to be hinting at something, what's going on? Silly Xiaoxi. Qin Yin smiled, Don't be fooled by everything in front of you. You have to know that humans are dangerous animals, but there are some animals that are even more dangerous, and the illusion they create is enough to deceive the gods. The elegant man laughed heartily. Miss, you really know how to joke. Qin Yin closed her eyes and said, this forest has been submerged for a long time. How could anyone fall into the water? To say the least, this girl has been soaked in the water for so long, but her skin isn't swollen at all. I think, sir, your disguise is still a lot worse. It's easy to be seen through. You're really smart. The elegant man laughed. However, smart people don't live long. It's really a pity that you three have such peerless looks, but in the end you'll become dry bones and painted skin in the water. What a pity. Tang Xiaoxi frowned. Who the hell are you? Lin Muyu had already unsheathed Xian Yuan's sword and stabbed straight at the elegant man's neck. Puff. The blade pierced through the girl's heart. The man actually used her as a shield, but there was no blood after the heart was pierced. Instead, the girl's body slowly transformed, turning into a piece of dead wood. Fuzhu, show yourself. Lin Muyu chuckled. If you fight us in this form, we'll be bullying you. Ha ha ha. The elegant man laughed. I can't believe I didn't deceive you. It's rare for human women to not be deceived by my illusion. Since that's the case, I'll grant you an intact corpse. As he spoke, Fuzhu quickly retreated, but his body began to tremble. His skin kept colliding and his body began to bend. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a giant deer about 3 meters tall with 4 horns on his head. It was Fuzhu, the legendary beast that even Feng Zhanlin was helpless against. Instantly, Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red. I'm so angry, he actually lied to us. Lin Muyu was speechless. You're the only one who fell for the illusion, alright? Thank goodness Xiao Yin broke it, or you would have married him. Shi Yan couldn't help but smile. The battle is imminent, so don't be jealous. The three of you attack together. This Fuzhu's aura is very strong, he won't be easy to deal with. Yes. You, Fuzhu roared loudly, and in an instant huge waves rolled up in the distant waters like a tsunami. This was a battle between gods, so the commotion was not ordinary. Tang Xiaoxi had already entered her 9-tailed transformation state. Her beautiful eyes were filled with fury and flames, and the great karmic fire art's divine power whirled around the bottom spear in her hand. Her entire body suddenly turned into a ball of flames and she charged at Fuzhu. The giant deer seemed to have understood Tang Xiaoxi's movements. It suddenly turned around and raised its head. One of its antlers was surrounded by divine power. Suddenly the sky was covered with dark clouds. A large amount of hailstones containing the divine power of an ancient ferocious beast came at the speed of a bullet. Bang bang bang. The great karmic fire art condensed a flaming shield that continuously resisted the hail, but it also directly dissolved Tang Xiaoxi's attack. On the other side, thunder and lightning raged. Lin Muyu used her divine power to attack with lightning. The Xianyuan sword's radiance soared and soared into the sky. She slashed at the other side of the giant deer for more than 10 times. Light splashed everywhere, and the target of the Xianyuan sword's slashes became a whirlpool of rapidly spinning waves. The monstrous divine power was unable to exert any force, as if it had fallen into cotton. Instead, the whirlpool ate Lin Muyu's attack and it came back at her. Rays of sword light danced in the air, but Lin Muyu was quick to react. She hurriedly waved her sword to block the attacks. Suddenly, the sound of weapons colliding in the air was incessant and sparks flew everywhere. A dazzling ice crystal fell from the sky. It was Qin Yin's celestial dragon crystal, and her real body that descended from the sky. She had already opened her eyes, and the eyes of blazing dawn formed a scorching field. Woo-woo, the celestial dragon crystal made Fuzhu feel very uncomfortable. He could not help but raise his neck, and a horn on his head quickly lit up with dazzling lightning, and it wreaked havoc in the air. Boom boom boom. The 89 waves of lightning shattered Qin Yin's celestial dragon crystal, but it could not shake Qin Yin's body. The stars soared with the power of the first strike of the 7 strikes, landed on Fuzhu's head. Bang! Dust flew everywhere, but the one who was knocked back was Qin Yin. Even though she had the overgod personality, the difference in divine power between her and Fuzhu was too great. What was worse was that the tsunami in the distance had already surged up the mountain range, and it was coming at them with a momentum that could devour everything. We cannot let Fuzhu enter the waters, or we will not be able to defeat him. Shi Yan shouted. Lin Muyu took a few steps back and gathered all the divine power in her body. She shouted, "All things in the world, listen to my command. Rise." The earth and the entire mountain range began to tremble. The rocks on the surface of the earth rose into the air, forming rock walls that were over 100 meters tall. The huge rocks seemed to have a life of their own, and under Lin Muyu's control, they quickly closed up and built a huge stone house on the mountainside. This stone house must be Fuzhu's burial place, or else Lin Muyu and the others would be in danger. Boom, boom, boom. Outside, the sound of the flood crashing against the stone walls could be heard, but it could not penetrate the thick stone walls. This meant that Fuzhu had been cut off from the water source. Qin Yin's light divine power illuminated the stone house. Tang Xiaoxi moved like a butterfly, wielding the Dig's spear as she fought Fuzhu. However, it was obvious that neither of them had the upper hand. Fuzhu's body was covered in wounds and so was Tang Xiaoxi. Even Lin Muyu's arms and legs were slashed by the Xianyuan sword. The power of Fuzhu's vortex was so strong that it almost ignored all of Lin Muyu's sword attacks. The rumbling sounds of battle reverberated in the stone house. Lin Muyu could only use the Xuanli of the divinity star, but she did not dare to use any stronger power. Otherwise, she would shatter the house, and it would be even more troublesome for Fuzhu to control the flood. Roar. With a furious roar, Fuzhu charged at Qin Yin with all his might. His four horns erected as if he was going to pierce through Qin Yin's body. However, Qin Yin had already predicted this. She swung her sword and unleashed the destruction strike. Boom. The destruction strike caused blood to splatter from Fuzhu's forehead. Even his skull could be seen, but the attack did not stop. Qin Yin suddenly retracted her sword, and the light of her overgod persona burst out from her body. She stood in the air like a goddess, and her surroundings entered into an area of absolute defense. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi's injuries healed a little, but Fuzhu crashed into the invisible barrier with a loud bang. His head was bleeding. The combination of destruction strike and mercy was unbearably strong. At this moment, a ray of light suddenly burst out from behind Lin Muyu. Zhou Xian. She gathered the remaining divine energy in her body and entered her blazing angel form. The blazing moon sword glowed brightly as it slashed at Fuzhu. The sixth strike of Xian's 7 slashes. Justice. Boom. Fuzhu's body trembled violently under the powerful strike. His skin began to peel off as if he was being judged by justice. His screams came one after another. Chapter 986. Good chance. Lin Muyu dashed forward and struck Fuzhu's side 3 times before he could turn around. The blade was filled with the divine power of the elephant wheel from the shapeless elephant incantation. The divine sword was indestructible and quickly broke through the divine beast chi shield. 3 large wounds appeared on the side of Fuzhu's body. Several of Fuzhu's ribs were broken, and his bloody internal organs could be vaguely seen. Roar! Fuzhu howled in agony as he retreated rapidly. His sharp horns slammed into the boulder with all his might, creating a large hole in the boulder as he escaped. Catch up to him or we won't have a chance to kill him. Xian shouted. Tang Xiaoxi's injuries were more serious. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin flew out with their swords in hand. Fuzhu stepped on the waves and rejoiced like a fish in water. His injuries seemed to be healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lin Muyu was in for a penny, in for a pound. She took out a blood-red thread from her Qinkuan pouch and threw it out. The thread twirled in the air and finally fell down, binding Fuzhu's injured body tightly. It was none other than the spirit binding rope she brought out from the ghost realm. Now it came in handy. Zoosh. The Xianyuan sword flew out of Fuzhu's hand and spun rapidly with intense flames. It went straight for Fuzhu's head. This attack was bound to pierce through his brain. When that happened, this almost sentient divine beast would not be able to escape death. But at this moment Fuzhu suddenly knelt on the surface of the water and shouted, "Young hero, please spare me." Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sharp edge of the Xianyuan sword stopped less than 5 centimeters away from Fuzhu's forehead. Lin Muyu controlled the sword with her chi and laughed. Why? Didn't you want to harm us? Why are you suddenly begging for mercy? Fuzhu panted heavily. His body curled up and crawled on the surface of the water. He once again transformed into the appearance of a handsome man. However, he was no longer as cheerful as before. On the contrary, he cut a sorry figure. Especially the wound on his chest, it was a little scary. He crawled on the ground and said, "Young hero, this little critter admits defeat. I admit defeat." Qin Yin spread her golden wings and slowly descended. She looked at it coldly with her flaming eyes and said, "You're so cunning. How do we know you're not playing tricks?" Fuzhou coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of blood into the water. "This little critter's heart meridian has been damaged. I can't use saint energy at all. I've lost. If I continue to fight, I'm afraid I'll end up with my head separated from my body. Just like what this lady said, this little critter has intelligence that ordinary people can't even imagine. So I can't fight anymore. This little critter admits defeat." "Admit defeat?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "You should also know that the reason we're here is to eliminate you, the scourge. You're a beast and we're humans. Even if you admit defeat, we'll still kill you." At this moment, Xian and Tang Xiaoxi floated out from the damaged stone house behind them. They saw Fuzhou in his human form kneeling on the ground from afar. Their faces were filled with shock. They had no idea what was going on. "Young hero." Fuzhou suddenly raised both his hands, his entire body almost touching the surface of the water. "This little critter is willing to submit completely to you, young hero. Please believe in this little critter's words." "No way." The Xianyuan sword in Lin Muyu's hand was enshrouded with golden divine energy. His power surged once again. He grinned miserably and said, "In order to kill you, almost all of us were injured. You want us to forgive you just because you prostrated yourself? Dream on. Your four horns are very rich with divine energy. If we refine them, our cultivation will increase by a lot. Do you want to pluck them out yourself or do you want me to do it for you?" Fuzhou was shocked. "Young hero. Ah no, exalted goddess, please forgive this little critter. These four horns are the essence of this little critter's cultivation. If you pluck them out, this little critter will become an ordinary spiritual beast. Exalted goddess, please forgive me. This little critter is willing to make a deal with the exalted goddess." "A deal?" Lin Muyu smiled. "Tell me, what do you want to exchange for your four horns?" Fuzhou slowly got up and kneeled on the surface of the water. His face was stained with blood as he said, "This little critter is willing to use the lair of gods and demons in exchange for these four horns." "The lair of gods and demons?" Qin Yin frowned slightly. "What's that? Where is it?" "The lair of gods and demons is right under this river." Fuzhou coughed a few more times and said, "The lair of gods and demons is an ice cave with an extremely cold temperature. An ordinary person would freeze to death within the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. However, the extreme cold in the lair of gods and demons allows a deity's thoughts to remain clear. The abundant spiritual energy also has a miraculous effect on cultivation. This lair of gods and demons used to be a secret cultivation place that everyone in the 64 domains yearned to go to. However, it has always been hidden from the world and no one knows about it. This little critter only discovered it by chance and caused a flood to flood this place so that it could cultivate alone in the lair of gods and demons. As long as the exalted goddess is willing to spare this little critter's life, this little critter is willing to offer the lair of gods and demons to the exalted goddess." Lin Muyu remained silent. She couldn't make up her mind for a moment. However, Xian raised her brows and smiled. "Give the lair of gods and demons to us? Who knows what you're thinking? Will you suddenly launch a sneak attack and kill us all in the lair of gods and demons? Even if you have to give up the lair of gods and demons, you must stay with us. Moreover, your infamy has already spread throughout the 64 domains. Do you think we'll let you go?" Fuzhou shuddered. Little critter. Exalted goddess, do you still want to kill this little critter?" "No, we don't have to kill him." Xian shook her head and smiled. "How about this? You sign a master-servant contract. You'll never betray him. Otherwise, you'll suffer 1,000 heavenly tribulations and die. This way we won't have to worry about you harming us." Fuzhou was aghast. "Master-servant contract? Why? You're not willing? Do you think that you isn't worthy of being your master?" Xian's beautiful eyes shot out murderous intent. "No, that's not it." Fuzhou hurriedly knelt down again and said, "This exalted goddess's power contains an awe-inspiring righteousness and the power of the 12 laws. He's definitely a supreme. Moreover, the weapon in his hand is the peerless divine artifact, the Xianyuan sword." Little critter. So you know everything." Lin Muyu looked at him coldly. Fuzhou said piously, "Exalted goddess, this little critter is willing to be your divine servant. I only ask for my life." Lin Muyu did not object. She nodded and said, Sister Xian, how do we settle this master-servant contract? Xian smiled. It's like a divine contract. There's no need for bloodline fusion. We only need one-sided allegiance. Fuzhu, kneel down and repeat my words to Lin Muyu. Yes, exalted goddess. Fuzhu knelt in front of Lin Muyu. He raised his handsome face and followed Xian's words. I, Fuzhu of the 64 domains, am willing to be loyal to exalted goddess Lin Muyu for life. No matter how the world revolves, the sun and the moon change, I will do my best and never repent. After the conversation, Fuzhu's entire body trembled. Rays of golden light seeped into his body. Xian said, You, place your sword on Fuzhu's shoulder and hit him 3 times. Lin Muyu was stunned. That does sound like a Western knight's salute. The master-servant contract has always been a rule of the Western divine realm. Quick, cut the nonsense. All right. He unsheathed the Xianyuan sword and gently struck it against Fuzhu's shoulder 3 times. These 3 strikes were like a shock to Fuzhu's soul. The Xianyuan sword was a divine weapon, but it was also a murderous weapon. Fuzhu had experienced its power, and the 3 strikes of the Xianyuan sword were like a warning as well as a threat. If he betrayed his oath, he would surely die a horrible death. At the same time, Lin Muyu felt a faint power enter her wrist through the Xianyuan sword. It was indescribably strange, but it did not affect her at all. The contract is complete. Xian smiled. All right, Fuzhu, you can now follow us to the lair of gods and demons. Yes. Wait. Lin Muyu frowned at Fuzhu. What is it, master? Fuzhu asked respectfully. Lin Muyu looked at his face and said, You can change your appearance at will, can't you? Yes. I can change my appearance to that of a human, and I can also change my appearance to that of a plant. Everything in the world has its laws and principles, and I'm only peeking at a part of it. Then make your face uglier. That won't do. Why? Because this little beast is born with such a handsome face. It can't be uglier. This is already the ugliest form, Fuzhu said seriously. Lin Muyu really wanted to slap this shameless divine beast to death. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi giggled. Qin Yin said, If we bring Fuzhu back to Lanyan City, who knows how many girls will suffer because of his stinky appearance. Yes. Lin Muyu was very worried. Xian smiled and shook her head. No, you don't have to worry about that. Why? Because Fuzhu is an ancient vicious beast. He wasn't born at all. It's said that he was born from the gathering of the essence of heaven and earth, so Fuzhu doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Am I right? Xian looked at Fuzhu with ridicule. Fuzhu blushed. Master Blazing Angel is right. This little beast is only the crystallization of the spiritual essence of the world. It doesn't have the ability to procreate. Lin Muyu looked at him speechlessly. So you're a eunuch from the primordial secret realm. That's right, master. But the word eunuch isn't appropriate. To be more precise, this little beast is a pure beast that isn't tainted by filth and has no emotions or desires. Lin Muyu didn't want to listen to his nonsense anymore. Hurry up and take us to the cave of gods and demons. Stop talking nonsense. Yes, master. Fuzhu took a deep breath and looked at the ocean in front of him. He suddenly shouted, Divide the water. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The whirlpool in front of them spun, and a tunnel leading to the depths of the water appeared in the blink of an eye. Divide the water? Interesting. Lin Muyu smiled. Fuzhu said respectfully, This little beast can control the rivers of the world and rule over all bodies of water. Divide the water is just a small trick. Please forgive me, master. Chapter 987. Following the whirlpool, they flew deeper and deeper into the ocean, to the point where even light couldn't penetrate. Lin Muyu had no choice but to unsheath the Xianyuan sword. Immediately, the radiance of the divine sword illuminated the tunnel for nearly 100 meters. After flying for an unknown period of time, the surroundings became colder and colder. Very quickly, after passing through several hundred meters of rock stratum, the surrounding water no longer flowed and froze into ice. It's so cold. Qin Yin whispered. Yeah. Lin Muyu nodded. He had to summon his divine energy to resist the cold. Just like him, Qin Yin, Xian, and Tang Xiaoxi also used their own energy to resist the cold. Clatter, clatter. A few pieces of red ice fell from Fuzhu's sleeves, creating a slight sound in the ice tunnel. What's that? Lin Muyu asked. Oh, it's the blood that flowed out of the little critter's lungs. It's frozen and fell down. It's fine. Fuzhou looked as if he was fine. The vitality of a divine beast was indeed strong. If it was any other person they would have already lost consciousness. But looking at him it seemed like he was completely fine. Lin Muyu was speechless. He couldn't be bothered to care about him anymore. He brought the three beauties with him and continued flying. After flying for about 5 minutes, the surroundings became unbelievably cold. The air they exhaled turned into ice in the blink of an eye. Even Lin Muyu's hand that was holding the sword was a little stiff. "We're here," Fuzhou muttered. In front of them there was a huge circular wall. It seemed to be a dead end. Fuzhou flew forward and gently pushed on the huge ice wall. Immediately, it opened with a rumble. A wave of cold air rushed out. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and the others thought that it was already cold outside. Only now did they understand the true meaning of cold. Even Qin Yin, who was close to the God Emperor level, was moaning from the cold. She turned around and looked at Lin Muyu. She wanted to hug him to keep him warm, but it was too embarrassing. After a moment of hesitation, she decided to use her divine energy to resist the cold. Fuzhou said, "Master, come in. We've arrived at the Cave of Gods and Demons." "Yes." Lin Muyu stepped into the Cave of Gods and Demons and saw that it was a completely different world inside. Pillars of ice towered into the sky, supporting the entire Cave of Gods and Demons. Divine power runes floated on each ice pillar. She couldn't understand the runes, but they seemed to be ancient characters. The existence of these ice pillars seemed to have the effect of sealing the power within the Cave of Gods and Demons. There were more than 20 ice beds beneath the ice pillars. The entire Cave of Gods and Demons was like a great hall, spacious and quiet. Along with the extreme cold came an abundance of spiritual energy. Just as Fuzhou said, the spiritual energy here was several times that of the outside world. So cold. Xianxia summoned the raging flame and held it in front of her chest. The water on her forehead had frozen into ice and hung on the ends of her hair. Lin Muyu took out the communicator that Lulu had given her. It flashed with a fluorescent light and said, "Measure the temperature." Lulu's voice came through. -273 degrees Celsius. "Big brother, where are you? How can you reach such a low temperature?" "Boohoo, Lulu doesn't feel well. I can't contact Big brother." As she spoke, her voice became intermittent and the image disappeared. So cold that the electronic equipment had malfunctioned? Lin Muyu was speechless. However, this temperature was very frightening. -273 degrees Celsius. Wasn't this the legendary absolute zero? This was the limit of temperature that matter could reach. Fortunately, this was the divine realm. Otherwise, it would be hard to imagine what kind of physics could produce such a temperature. Fuzhou was already slowly crawling on an ice bed. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into his beast form. He said, "Master, don't waste time. In the Cave of Gods and Demons, you can maintain a state of complete enlightenment. No matter how much pain your body has to endure, you won't faint. So, you should treasure your time because you won't have much time in the Cave of Gods and Demons." "Why?" Lin Muyu asked. Fuzhou smiled. "With this little beast's cultivation, it can only cultivate for 6 hours in the Cave of Gods and Demons. After that, it will have to go out and get some fresh air. How long does Master think you can last?" All right, now that he put it that way, it made sense. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Xiaoxia were fine, but Xian wasn't so good. The absolute zero made her very uncomfortable. She was already forcefully activating her king's battle flame to maintain her body temperature. Everyone stopped talking and each found a bed of ice to meditate and cultivate. Lin Muyu's formless elephant art had already reached the 3rd stage, 100 elephants beheading demon. As she circulated her art, golden elephant wheels revolved around her body. It was a spectacular sight. At the same time, the supreme godhead shone brightly, providing its master with the power to resist the cold. As the elephant wheels revolved inside her body, her power would increase slightly with every revolution. In the Shattered Cauldron realm, an elephant wheel would take at least 2 hours to complete a full revolution. However, in the Cave of Gods and Demons, Lin Muyu was surprised to find that a full revolution actually took less than 20 minutes. On the side, Qin Yin was sitting on an ice bed in a dignified manner. She was chanting the incantation of Xian's 7 slashes. Miniature dragon crystals revolved around her. She was still able to control the absolute zero for the time being. Tang Xiaoxi was relatively more relaxed. She was chanting the Great Flame Art, and Lord-level flames continuously circulated around her. The 9 flame tails behind her slowly stretched out, looking extremely beautiful. Very soon Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi began to enjoy the cultivation process. In the past, when they were cultivating, their emotions would always be controlled by the manic power when they were trying to break through the great heavenly cycle. However, it was not the case this time. The absolute zero temperature and abundant spiritual power perfectly solved this problem, allowing the cultivation to be twice as effective with half the effort. However, in less than an hour, Xian's body suddenly trembled slightly, and her face turned a little pale. "Are you okay, Sister Xian?" Lin Muyu opened her eyes and asked. Xian was a little embarrassed. "I can't. I'm still too weak now. My bloodline is about to freeze. Send me out." Lin Muyu nodded. "Fuzhu, send Lord Blazing Angel out." "Yes, Master." Fuzhu raised his 4 hooves and walked over. He lowered his front hooves and made a kneeling posture. Meanwhile, Xian happily rode on this divine beast and flew out of the cave of gods and demons in the blink of an eye. Under such low temperatures, the spatial walls were already frozen. Even the ability to break through the void couldn't be used here. Qin Yin was the second person who couldn't hold on, but she was much better than Xian. She lasted for a whole 5 hours, which was beyond Fuzhu's expectations. On the other hand, Tang Xiaoxi lasted for 6 hours, which was the same amount of time as Fuzhu. After everyone left the cave of gods and demons, only Lin Muyu was left in the entire cave of gods and demons. Before they left, Qin Yin had told them not to force themselves. However, Lin Muyu really didn't force herself. The Supreme Lattice continuously provided energy to replenish the body's lack of temperature. The elephant wheel tower in her EC continued to spin, and the strength of the divine power in her body also increased. This made Lin Muyu feel very comfortable. In the blink of an eye, it was already midnight. The heaven and earth were silent, and the water around the mountain gradually receded. This was Lin Muyu's idea. Fuzhu killing wild hunters for his own cultivation wasn't a good thing. At the foot of the mountain, Qin Yin, Xian, Tang Xiaoxi, and Fuzhu stared at the entrance of the cave of gods and demons from afar. "Big brother, you still hasn't come out." Qin Yin was a little worried. "Will something happen to him?" "No, Xiao Yin, don't worry so much." Xian smiled. "You, on the other hand, have made a lot of progress in your cultivation, and the strength of your divine power has increased a lot. Yes, I plan to break through to the 59th Grotto Heaven stage tomorrow. Big brother Yu's progress is about the same. Though you might be faster." Xian's beautiful eyes looked into the distance. "That brat still isn't willing to come out. I suspect that he wants to break through to the 59th Grotto Heaven stage today. It can't be so fast. What do you think? The environment of the Cave of Gods and Demons is unconventional, and ordinary people can't withstand it. But he's different. His sovereign disposition is tyrannical and he can adapt to the harsh environment. Cultivating in the Cave of Gods and Demons, this brat is like a fish in water." Yes. At this moment, a few tyrannical auras suddenly appeared in the sky. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 figures flew over and stopped in the air like flowing lights. One of them said respectfully, "Lord Blazing Angel, I thought something happened to you, so I brought people over to take a look." It was the Spirit Sparrow Region Lord Feng Zhanlin, and even Feng Zhanhai had come. Xian chuckled. "How could anything happen? We just found a good place to cultivate here, so we can't bear to leave. Don't worry, Region Lord, please go back. We are fine here and we will naturally go back when we want to." "Yes." Feng Zhanlin nodded respectfully, but Feng Zhanhai's gaze fell on Fuzhu. He immediately recognized him and shouted, "Evil creature, so you're here too. Lord Blazing Angel, don't be fooled by this Fuzhu." Xian couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry, Fuzhu has already been subdued by you." "Ah." Feng Zhanlin was stunned. "You mean Lin General has already subdued this savage beast?" "Yes." Feng Zhanlin immediately said with respect, "Lin General is indeed extraordinary. He actually tamed an ancient savage beast like Fuzhu. How rare. Who would have thought that Fuzhu would stare at the sky with an unruly expression?" He pointed at Feng Zhanhai and said, "I recognize you, the trash that was beaten to a pulp by me last time. How about it, do you want to fight again?" I'll let you see what it means to be the overlord of the water. Feng Zhanlin's face was ashen. Did he really tame it? Of course. Xian's beautiful eyes turned cold. Fuzhu, behave yourself. They are all Yu's friends. If you continue to be so arrogant, I'll have you send you to the Spirit Sparrow region as a watchdog. Fuzhu's body trembled and its demeanor became tamed. Lord Blazing Angel, this lowly beast knows its mistake. Please don't let Master send me to be a watchdog. This lowly beast is an ancient divine hound. An ancient divine beast. I can't afford to lose face like that. Humph, then wait here obediently for you to come out. Yes. Chapter 988. He's out. Fuzhu exclaimed softly at once. Sure enough, a figure flew out from the depths of the cave of gods and demons like a stream of light, instantly appearing in front of everyone. It was Lin Muyu, but at this moment his entire body was covered in icicles, and his face was covered in a thick layer of frost. With a shake, all the frost fell off, revealing a radiant face underneath. Congratulations, you. Looks like you've broken through again. Xian said cheerfully. Yes, that's right. The Blazing Angel's eyes were sharp to be able to see through this. Lin Muyu nodded and said, I just broke through to the 59th level of Grotto Heaven not long ago. I originally wanted to cultivate for a while longer, but I really couldn't hold on any longer. It's freezing inside, and if I don't come out soon, I'm afraid I'll turn into a lump of ice. Are you all right? Qin Yin held his hand and felt a bone-piercing chill coming from Lin Muyu's body. Cultivating in the absolute zero space of the Cave of Gods and Demons for a whole 11 hours was really something that no one else could do. The chill in Lin Muyu's body couldn't dissipate in a few minutes, so he had to stay in the outside world for a while. Otherwise he would be advancing prematurely and it would harm his body instead. I'm fine. Lin Muyu gently held Qin Yin's hand and looked up at Feng Zhanlin and the others. Domain Lord, why are you here too? We've been waiting for Lin General's return for a long time, so we were very worried, but we didn't expect Lin General to successfully tame a beast like Fuzhu. This is truly a cause for celebration. It's everyone's credit, not just mine. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment, then said, Domain Lord Feng, you can go back first. I want to stay here and cultivate for a few more days, until I break through to the God Emperor realm before returning to the Spirit Sparrow Castle. Is that okay? Of course, Feng Zhanlin said respectfully. Then, this subordinate will return to the Spirit Sparrow Castle to wait for Lin General. All right. Feng Zhanlin and the others flew away in the blink of an eye. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, Why did Mu suddenly decide not to leave? We don't even have a place to stay here. Are we going to continue living in the wilderness? As I do. Lin Muyu spread her hands and said, Actually, it doesn't matter even if I have to eat and sleep in the wilderness. As long as I can step into the God Emperor realm as soon as possible, it will be fine. I can feel the power in my body increasing by leaps and bounds. The invisible elephant art can increase my divine power by 1,000th with every great circulation, and 6,000th with every hour. As long as my power increases by another 10%, I can try to break through to the God Emperor realm. So, I need about 16 hours to break through to the God Emperor realm. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were dumbfounded. They didn't expect Lin Muyu to describe cultivation in such a digital way. On the other hand, Xian seemed to be used to it. She said, Yes, it's good to advance quickly, but you should rest well tonight. Otherwise, your body won't be able to take it. After all, your godhead is a supreme godhead, but your body is still just an ordinary godhead. But this is a vast swamp. Where should we go to rest? Fuzhu hurriedly said, Master, I know a good place to rest. There is an abandoned palace at the top of this mountain. 1,000 years ago, it was the domain castle of the ancient desolate domain. After it was conquered, it was abandoned. The entire ancient desolate domain moved north. Although this palace is abandoned, it can at least shelter us from the wind and rain. All right. Lin Muyu's face lit up. Go. Bring us there immediately. All right, do you have anything to eat? I'm so hungry. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. Yes. I have some dried meat in my spatial bag. Just cook it for a while. She should have some spirit fruits as after-dinner fruits. Big brother don't you have some blankets? Rest is not a problem. Yes, all right. After everyone flew to the top of the mountain, there was indeed a dilapidated palace. The entire palace used to be as wide as a temple, but after 1,000 years, most of it had been corroded by time. Only the palm-sized main hall was left standing on the mountain peak. The main hall was covered in dust and spider webs. It made people feel like they were visiting the ancient times. Lin Muyu was the first to step into the main hall. A strong wind swept through the hall, blowing away the spider webs and the dust on the ground. Then she said, "Fuzhu, wash the floor." "Yes, master." Fuzhu muttered to himself. Waves of blue ripples in his palm turned into a stream of water that swept across the floor, washing away all the dust in the great hole. Immediately, the shiny floor tiles were revealed. No one would have thought that the floor tiles of this dilapidated great hall were actually made of some unknown crystal. They were very flat, sparkling and translucent. "You can live in it after it's dried," Lin Muyu said. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "I'll do it. I'm good at this." As she spoke, she raised her delicate palm and swept it in an arc towards the hall in front of her. Instantly, a rain of fire descended. It didn't stick close to the ground, but instead hovered 10 centimeters above the ground. In less than 10 minutes, all the water on the ground had been dried up, and the entire hall became warm and cozy. Lin Muyu took out 2 blankets and laid them on the ground. This would be a place to lie down at night. Fuzhu had always been used to sleeping in the open. He couldn't help but laugh. "You humans are really interesting. You're so particular about where you live. I've never slept in such a thing before." "No one said you're going to sleep." Lin Muyu glanced at him. "These 2 blankets, Xiao Yin and I will use one. Xiao Shi and Sister Xian will use the other. As for you, Fuzhu, you need to stand guard outside at night. What if someone sneaks up on you?" Fuzhu shuddered. This is too much of a violation of my human rights." "You're a beast. What human rights are you talking about? Protecting your master is your duty. Once you're full, you'll be in charge of the night watch." "Yes, master." The supper was very sumptuous. 2 pots of food were cooked. It seemed that everyone in the cave of gods and demons had used up a lot of their energy. It was understandable that they ate so much. Fuzhu sat under the starry sky outside the main hall in an elegant robe. He looked at the dazzling stars. As a sentinel, his heart was filled with mixed feelings. He couldn't help but sing loudly. "Carrying the elegance of the ancients, I stand alone. Bukanglin's waves are unyielding and unyielding. The heavens favor my living beings, only the world cannot." As he sang, Lin Muyu's sleepy voice came from the main hall. "Shut up." Fuzhu immediately stopped singing. He sat on a rock and looked at the receding tide with boredom. The tips of his feet rubbed against the ground, drawing the outline of the mountains and rivers. Whoosh! A sharp sword shot out from the main hall and landed on the ground where Fuzhu had just been. "If you don't behave, I'll cut off your hoof next time," Lin Muyu said. Fuzhu felt that he had no human rights. But after thinking about it carefully, he realized that he had done a lot of evil over the years. Now that he had met such a cruel and ruthless master, it was really karma. Far away in the celestial pole, under the starry sky of the Shattered Cauldron realm, everything seemed unusually peaceful. Lin Muyu and the others had already ascended to the prehistoric mystic realm for nearly a month, but only 3 days had passed in the human world. Under the starry sky, Lanyan City still stood firmly under the firmament, but the undercurrents in the city were affecting everyone. In the side hall of the Zetian Palace, the Imperial Army's meeting hall, the candlelight swayed violently under the wind. Feng Jixing sat on the general's seat and looked at everyone calmly. Wei Chou, Zhang Wei, Situ Sin, Qin Yan and the others were almost all present. "How's the mobilization going?" Feng Jixing asked. 1 out of 5, the feudal vassals can't say anything. Situ Sin said, "We've mobilized 100,000 soldiers from the Imperial Army and they're all gathered in the camp south of the city. But what should we do next?" "Did Lin General say anything to General Feng before he left?" Feng Jixing smiled. "Yes." Wei Chou, Zhang Wei and the others pricked up their ears. "We're all ears." Feng Jixing said, "You once had a secret discussion with me. We can't be too hasty in solving the problems of the Imperial Army. There are 3 steps. The first step is to mobilize the troops, which has already been completed. The second step is to grant amnesty, the third step is to donate money to buy merits, and the fourth step is to hide the bow after all the birds have been killed." Everyone was baffled by what they heard. Zhang Wei said, "Commander, we're all uncouth men. It's better for you to speak more clearly. Otherwise we won't understand it all. Alright, to put it simply. Feng Jixing's handsome face carried a smile as he looked at everyone. The second step is to grant amnesty to soldiers who are below the age of 18 and above the age of 45, have 2 elders in their families and have only 1 son. They'll be allowed to retire and return to farming. I've done some research. This way we'll be able to reduce the strength of the Imperial Army by at least another 100,000 soldiers. The third step is to donate money. The commander, deputy commander, captaincy and other high-ranking generals in the Imperial Army have no military merits. Therefore, the Ministry of War will issue a military merit register. Those who have no military merits but want to retain their military rank will have to donate large amounts of gold and silver. This way we'll be able to obtain another sum of military funds from the feudal vassals. The fourth step is to hide the bough after all the birds have been killed. This is even simpler. Half a year is enough for us to digest these 500,000 soldiers. After that, Zhuang Yan, Su Changing and the others will no longer have any value. But what? Situ Sen's brows were tightly knitted. But get rid of them. Feng Jixing placed his palm in front of his neck. His meaning was self-evident. This is also Lin General's idea? Wei Chou was stunned. Feng Jixing nodded. Yes. Do you think that he doesn't want to kill these rebellious traitors? It's just that the time isn't right yet. Situ Sen was delighted. Since that's the case, that's great. Leave the bough after all the birds have been killed to me. I was just thinking of avenging those dragons of mine. Don't be too hasty on this matter. We still have to take it step by step. Yes. Tomorrow the special amnesty will be announced in the parliament. Apart from that, the scholars selected from all over the country are about to arrive. Tomorrow they'll announce that we'll join the parliament and become one of its members. Yes, I understand. Wei Chou nodded happily. Feng Jixing suddenly stood up and said, tomorrow's matter is of great importance. Everyone must proceed with caution. Zhang Wei, mobilize 50,000 imperial guards to guard every gate of the imperial capital. Do not let any troops enter or leave. Situ Sen, mobilize 30,000 Longdan army camp and surround the parliament. This is to prevent Zhuang Yan and the others from doing anything out of desperation. Yes. Chapter 989. The next day the drums rumbled and it was the day of the Congress meeting. However, it was different this time. Even though the Congress building was guarded by 5,000 soldiers, everyone could see the Longdan army camp's armored cavalry standing in formation, completely isolating the Congress building from the outside world. It was only when the Congress was about to begin that the Imperial Guard's cavalry finally arrived. Feng Jixing, dressed in a commander's armor, rode a tall horse, and entered the Congress building under the escort of Zhang Wei, Luo Yu, Guanxing and the others. Dong dong dong. After the bell rang 3 times, Zhuang Yan stood up and loudly announced, "The meeting shall begin." When he sat down, the entire Congress was silent and no one actually spoke. Su Changing immediately frowned, coughed and said, "Sir Zhuang Yan, didn't you prepare the agenda?" Zhuang Yan nodded. However, before he could speak, Feng Jixing stood up and said with a smile, "Before the meeting begins, I would like to announce something." Everyone was stunned. A few seconds later, Marquis Yu Zhong said, "Please speak, General Feng." Feng Jixing smiled and said, "First of all, let me introduce. There are a total of 70 people participating in the Congress this time. I'm sure everyone has seen many unfamiliar faces. They are famous scholars from various provinces in the empire. Come everyone, please rise." The people behind Feng Jixing stood up one after another, and Feng Jixing introduced them one by one. "This is Ning Shan from the Seven Seas province. Mr. Ning Shan is a learned scholar, and his reputation has spread far and wide. Next to him is Zhang Jin from the Earth Star province. Zhang Jin is a world-famous painter and I believe everyone has heard of him. And this is Qin Su from the Lingnan province, a distant descendant of the Qin family, and he is quite famous locally." After a full 10 minutes of introduction, Feng Jixing finally finished. He abruptly opened a golden scroll in his hand and said, "Her Highness the Empress has decreed that these 70 people will join the Kingdom of Shang from today onwards as members of the Kingdom of Shang. They are the cream of the crop from their respective provinces. With them joining the Kingdom of Shang, this is the wish of the common people." The vassals were stunned. No one had expected Feng Jixing to act first and report later. Su Changjing stood up, cupped her fists and said respectfully, General Feng, the Congress has a written rule that members of the Congress must be selected through the high-level parliament. This, I've passed. Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows and smiled. Look, this imperial edict has Lin General and Princess Xi's signatures on it. In addition to me, Wei Chou and Su Yu's approval, 5 out of the 9 imperial deacons have agreed, more than half. But the chief hasn't agreed yet. But Her Highness the Empress has agreed. Feng Jixing's gaze turned cold and he smiled. Is the chief more powerful than the Empress? As he spoke, a dense killing intent rippled out. The killing intent between his brows was awe-inspiring. Ever since he started cultivating the martial god technique, Feng Jixing's entire temperament seemed to have changed quite a bit. At this moment, Qin Kong, who was sitting on the chief's seat, coughed and said, Let's pass this matter since Her Highness the Empress has agreed. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and the rest were so angry that they gritted their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. Feng Jixing smiled faintly and said, Since Sir Zhuang Yan's agenda hasn't started, I still have an agenda that Her Highness the Empress left behind before she went into seclusion. It's about the amnesty for the soldiers of the Kingdom of Shang. Zhuang Yan, Lu Xiu and the rest were stunned. Feng Jixing took out another imperial edict and said, The Qin Empire has gone through untold hardships and finally defeated a strong enemy. This is the fortune of the world. However, the predecessor of the Kingdom of Shang was a gathering of righteous and courageous people from all over the country. When the empire was in danger, they fought bravely at the forefront with commendable courage. Now that the world is at peace, it has been decided that the Kingdom of Shang will be granted a special Kingdom of Shang. Any soldier who is below the age of 18 and above the age of 45, has 2 elders in their families, and has only one son will be allowed to retire and return to farming. They will also be given a settlement allowance of 100 Jinin dollars per person. From Qin Yin of the Great Qin Empire. What? Zhuang Yan couldn't sit still anymore. Everyone knew that it wasn't easy to recruit this group of soldiers. The empire had been through wars for a long time, and most of the young and strong men had already enlisted in the army a few years ago. Most of the soldiers recruited by the feudal lords were teenagers or old soldiers. This special pardon was equivalent to reducing the number of soldiers in the Kingdom of Shang by over 100,000. No, absolutely not. Zhuang Yan was a little flustered. Among the feudal lords, Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others were only boorish men who only cared about fame and fortune. In terms of intelligence, they couldn't be compared to Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. From the beginning, they had to withdraw more than 100,000 soldiers to hand over to the Longdan army camp and the Imperial Guards. Now they were withdrawing troops for the second time. The strength of the Kingdom of Shang was shrinking day by day, and they could no longer sit still. However, there were still wise people among the feudal lords. Marquis Yangzhong stood up shakily. His bloated body was almost touching the table as he said, General Feng, this isn't appropriate. What do you mean? Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Yangzhong said, The Kingdom of Shang is a basic national policy approved by Her Highness and Lin General. The Constitution has just been established, and the Kingdom of Shang is the guardian army of the Constitution. How can it be weakened step by step? I hope that General Feng and Her Highness will cancel the decree for the sake of the people and the welfare of the common people. The Kingdom of Shang can't withstand such torment. Moreover, Yangzhong's gaze swept across Feng Jixing and said, Just now, I saw that the Longdan army camp has been surrounded so tightly that not even a drop of water can trickle through. I really don't understand what this means. According to the Constitution, the Kingdom of Shang is supreme and only below the Empress. Now that the Empress is in seclusion, how can the Longdan army camp trample on the law and be above the Kingdom of Shang? Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and smiled. Marquis, if I say that the Longdan army camp is protecting the Kingdom of Shang, will you believe me? Yangzhong shook his head and replied, General Feng is a god and I, Yangzhong, am merely a mortal. I believe that General Feng won't believe such a self-deceiving thing. The Kingdom of Shang has its own value and the Kingdom of Shang has its own dignity. General Feng, please don't force us like this anymore. Otherwise, if we end up in a life-and-death struggle, I'm afraid that it will be a disaster for the empire. Marquis, are you threatening me? Feng Jixing squinted his eyes and smiled. I'm not. I'm just stating the facts according to the law. Stating the facts, huh? Feng Jixing laughed out loud. Then I'll be stating the facts with you. Men, bring out the gift I'm giving to Marquis Yu. A guard stepped forward and took out a letter from his bosom. Feng Jixing took out the letter, shook it open and held it up to Yang Zhong. He smiled and said, Marquis Yu, have you forgotten the deal you made with Marshal Baiming Huan of the Tianji Empire? Look, it's written clearly in black and white here. Is that so? Yang Zhong did not bat an eyelid and said indifferently, Commander Feng wouldn't be thinking of using a forged letter to punish this old man, right? Of course, that's not all. Feng Jixing said, this is the material evidence and I'll find you a witness. Men, summon Yang Zhong's butler, Sui. Yang Zhong's body trembled and he finally couldn't keep his cool. Sui was also old and feeble. He walked to Feng Jixing and saluted, then looked at Yang Zhong. Yang Zhong was shaking with anger. Didn't I ask you to burn the letter? Sui cupped his hands. Master, I just wanted to leave a way out for myself. You dog of a slave. Men. Feng Jixing's voice was full of dignity. He said, according to the law, colluding with the enemy and betraying the empire is punishable by death without trial. Drag Yang Zhong away and behead him. No one dared to stop him. Situ-Sin flew up and grabbed Yang Zhong's fat body, lifting him up like an eagle grabbing a chick. In a flash, Situ-Sin came back with Yang Zhong's head on the tray in his hand. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and the rest turned pale and were almost speechless. Feng Jixing looked at the group of feudal vassals coldly and said, as you have said, the Congress is a basic national policy, and it will be implemented unswervingly. However, this is the outcome of a traitor. I hope that all of you can reflect on yourselves. If you don't even have the most basic loyalty to the empire, then you don't deserve to be a parliament member in the Congress. As he said that, Feng Jixing slammed the special pardon decree on the table and said in a tone that left no room for discussion, the special pardon decree will be implemented immediately. The Ministry of War will send people to the National Army to select soldiers suitable for the special pardon. Looking at Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and Lu Xiu from afar, Feng Jixing smiled very brightly. Don't worry, sirs. I believe that you are loyal to the Empire and Her Highness, right? Zhuang Yan hurriedly said, General Feng, please investigate clearly. We know nothing about Yang Zhong's betrayal. Su Changjing nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. Lu Xiu was so scared that he couldn't speak and his face was pale. Feng Jixing sneered. Whatever, I believe you. However, I hope that all of you can investigate yourselves. If I, Feng Jixing, do it personally, I'm afraid it won't look good. In addition, all the national soldiers are to stay put and wait for orders. No one is allowed to act on their own. While Lin General is in seclusion, I will act as the marshal. Yes, General Feng. At this moment, who dared to disobey Feng Jixing? At this moment, Feng Jixing was an omnipotent god. He could even find out that Yang Zhong had betrayed the empire. His words carried enormous weight in the Congress and he was simply a little overlord. 5 days later, the Congress was officially reduced to 200,000 soldiers, which was far from the original 500,000 soldiers. Not long after, Lin Muyu, who was far away in the primordial secret realm, had already begun to challenge the celestial large realm. It was freezing cold in the cave of gods and demons. No one expected that Lin Muyu would be the first among the three to challenge the celestial large realm. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan were all guarding him at the side, quietly waiting for him to make a breakthrough. The ice cave was unbelievably cold, but there were flames flowing around Lin Muyu's body. One could even vaguely see waves of lava crashing against the mortal latch in his dantian. Chapter 990. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. When the wisps of flames condensed into a torrent, the entire cave of gods and demons was illuminated. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked on in amazement. They never knew that Lin Muyu's body was hiding such a strong power. He had only been cultivating in the cave of gods and demons for less than 4 days, but he was already different from before. Shi Yan squinted her beautiful eyes and forcefully activated her battle energy to resist the invasion of the cold. She said indifferently, "You don't be moved by the outside world. Focus and settle, everything returns to one." At this time Lin Muyu's forehead was already covered in sweat. Even the veins on his face and neck were bulging. Faint fiery red divine power could be seen in his meridians. It was quite frightening. The 60th Heaven Gate was also known as the Imperial Pass. Because breaking through this level would make one a God Emperor expert, breaking through the 60th Heaven Gate was also known as Emperor Breakthrough. Lin Muyu closed his eyes. His Yihai and Dantian felt as if they were being burned by fire. The divine power in his body continuously attacked the Imperial Pass, but it couldn't break through. Instead, when the divine power flowed back, it began to devour and burn his meridians, making him feel very uncomfortable. Finally, he couldn't help but vomit a large mouthful of blood. Emperor breakthrough failed. Big brother you. Moo. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi stood on his left and right to protect him. They immediately held Lin Muyu's hand and used their own divine power to protect his heart and meridians, to prevent the power from hurting his body. The divine power in Lin Muyu's body wreaked havoc and he almost fainted. Fortunately, under the stimulation of the cold in the cave of gods and demons, he barely protected his heart and mind. However, every cell in his body felt like it was on fire. He frowned and asked, "What is going on? My power has clearly reached the point where I can break through, but I still failed," Xian said calmly. "This level is called the Imperial Pass. Since ancient times it hasn't been easy to break through. Many people have tried to break through 10,000 or even 20,000 times in tens of thousands of years, but they all failed. Your Godhead is the sovereign Godhead, so the requirement for power to break through to the Imperial Pass is even harsher, so it's common for you to fail the first time." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and felt the energy in her body dissipating like the tide. She said, "My power has weakened. My power has weakened." "That's right, this is the price of failing to break through to the Imperial Pass. But it's fine, your cultivation speed in the Cave of Gods and Demons is fast enough. At most 20 days, you'll recover to the level before you failed to break through to the Imperial Pass. I'm afraid it's far from enough." Lin Muyu looked deeply at Xian and said, "I miscalculated. The power I need is far from 10% stronger than the 59th heavenly layer. It needs to be at least 30% stronger to break through to the Imperial Pass. But I plan to cultivate to 40% before breaking through to the Imperial Pass. I'm 90% sure." "Yes, that will take about a month." Qin Yin smiled. "But it doesn't matter, we have time. Don't be too anxious. Wait for me and Shaoxi, we haven't reached the Imperial Pass yet." Tang Xiaoxi smiled sweetly. "Looks like we won't get anything today." "Not all of them." Xian on the side smiled slightly. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Xian smiled. "Don't you think I'm going to break through too?" With that, Xian slowly stood up. She, who had been cultivating calmly, seemed much younger. The pure power of light in her body swept out like a tsunami. The 6 wings behind her slowly spread out and her eyes turned light gold. She smiled and said, "You failed to break through to the Imperial Pass, but I've recovered to the immortal state, even though I'm just a heavenly layer 1 heavenly angel." Lin Muyu and Qin Yin couldn't help but laugh. "Congratulations, Sister Haiyan," Tang Xiaoxi also said with a smile. "In this way our overall strength has been greatly enhanced. Sister Xian, according to your current cultivation advancement, when do you think you can return to the 99th heavenly layer?" Xian pondered for a long time. With a hint of loneliness between her brows, she said, "Actually, I'm not too sure. If everything goes well, it'll be about 3 to 5 years. If not, maybe I won't be able to recover to my peak strength in 10 or 100 years. But it doesn't matter. I'm indifferent to it." "Perhaps it's because you're indifferent to it that Sister Xian's strength will recover very quickly." Lin Muyu went straight to the point and said, "Heart as still as water, indifferent and tranquil has always been the highest realm of cultivation. At least that's what the secret manual that Fuxi gave me said." "Did the great Emperor Fuxi of Heavens Beyond really say that?" Xian asked with a smile. "Yes. It seems." The corners of Xian's mouth curled up. She smiled meaningfully and said, "It's not a bad thing for me to give up my cultivation and destroy my own divine pact. Maybe a bad thing can become a good thing and let me break through to the blazing angel realm." "Ah." Lin Muyu and Qin Yin both asked in astonishment. "There's a higher realm above the blazing angel realm?" "There is." Xian smiled with a taboo expression. "But I'm not too sure either. At least, I haven't seen it in my tens of thousands of years of cultivation. Maybe I'll understand everything when I stand at the peak myself." As she said that, Xian shivered from the cold. She said, "My divine power is almost exhausted. I can't hold on any longer. Do you want to continue cultivating here? Yu's body has just been injured. I suggest that we rest for a day and wait for Yu's injuries to heal before continuing to cultivate." "Okay." The 3 of them agreed. The entrance to the cave of gods and demons was very well hidden. It was just a small gap in the shattered ice. Outside of the gap was the shallow water region. That was why Lin Muyu and the others flew out of the water. The people outside might not be able to discover the secret of the cave of gods and demons. In the distance, the ancient palace on the mountain range actually had wisps of smoke floating up. What's going on? Lin Muyu asked with a frown. Something happened to our residence. Let's go and take a look. Xian said with certainty. The four of them flew up like meteors. When they landed on the mountain peak together, they saw that there were flames wreaking havoc outside their residence. There were also streaks of blood. Some were gold and some were blue. The gold blood belonged to a god state expert while the blue blood belonged to Fuzhu. Fuzhu? Lin Muyu's heart trembled. She said, Fuzhu, where are you? Master, I'm here. A weak voice came from a small forest not far away. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin sped over and saw Fuzhu lying under a crooked tree. There were injuries on his arms, legs and even his neck. Moreover, the injuries were not light. In particular, there was a knife wound on his arm. It was so deep that the bone could be seen. How did this happen? Lin Muyu flew over and opened one hand. The healing power instantly surrounded Fuzhu. Fuzhu's injuries were so deep that even his own self-healing ability could not heal them. After encountering Lin Muyu's divine healing, his wounds seemed to be burning. He could not help but let out a miserable howl. Xian walked over slowly and asked, Fuzhu, what happened? Cough, cough, cough. Fuzhu coughed violently and spat out a mouthful of blood. He said, a group of gods ambushed me. Who else knows about this place? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin frowned. People from the Spirit Sparrow region? No, they are not from the Spirit Sparrow region. Fuzhu's face was pale. I recognize one of them. It's Dongfang Yan. His law of fire is very powerful. It can even penetrate the little beast's protective wall. Dongfang Yan. Yes. Dongfang Yan is the domain lord of the Raging Fire region. At the same time, he's also the overlord of the surrounding 1,000 miles. Within this 1,000 miles, there are 7 other regions, including the Spirit Sparrow region. However, their forces are far weaker than Dongfang Yan. That's why the people of the Raging Fire region can run amok in other people's territories. Fuzhu gritted his teeth. 300 years ago I fought with Dongfang Yan once. This time he's even stronger. I'm so angry. If the little beast's spiritual vein wasn't damaged by Master, how could the little beast be beaten so badly by just 10 people? If I didn't use the water to escape, I'm afraid I would have been killed by them. Is the Raging Fire region really that strong? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Yes. Fuzhu said, as far as I know, the Raging Fire region has a total of 18 god emperors, 300 divine kings, 1,000 hierarch experts and 100,000 servants. The territory of the Raging Fire region is 9 times bigger than the Spirit Sparrow region. That's why all the 8 regions in the southeast are afraid of the Raging Fire region. Lin Muyu frowned. Dongfang Yan came here to kill you? No, he's looking for the cave of gods and demons. Fuzhu coughed violently. Dongfang Yan is currently an 88th Heavenly Grotto God Emperor. He probably wants to use the cave of gods and demons to break through to the 90th Heavenly God Emperor realm. That's why he's in a hurry. However, this little beast knows that you're in the cave of gods and demons, so it would rather die than reveal its location. Master, do you think this little beast is loyal? It's very loyal, Lin Muyu praised. It seems like the Raging Fire region has their eyes on us. We need to find a new place to stay. It's best to enter the cave of gods and demons together next time. Otherwise, it'll be very dangerous for those who stay outside. Qin Yin nodded. I agree. Xian said, Fuzhu, is there any other place we can stay? Fuzhu was stunned. No, bullsh *t. Qian the blazing angel cursed. She puffed up her full and round chest and looked down at Fuzhu. There's a saying that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. You're the ruler of the water region, how can you not have 3 burrows? I don't believe it. Bring us there immediately. Otherwise I'll kill you before Dongfang Yan does. Don't forget your oath to you. If you're not loyal to Master, you'll face the heavenly tribulation. Do you think you can escape the heavenly tribulation with your state of mind? Fuzhu wailed in pain. This little beast can't escape. I'll bring you there. Chapter 991. Dragon-Seeking Mountain was a lush, ancient forest located 25 miles south of the Cave of Gods and Demons. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. A few silhouettes landed in the forest. It was Lin Muyu, Fuzhu and the others. Qin Yin looked around and said, "We saw a few spirit beasts when we were flying over just now. The strongest one among them has a lifespan of 30,000 years. Actually, we can get rid of it while we're at it." Fuzhu hurriedly said, "Miss Qin Yin, all things have spirituality. Spirit beasts are born from the spirits of heaven and earth. Since you are all gods, you should know compassion. Let them go. You make it sound like you're one of them." Tang Xiaoxi had a warning smile on her face. By now, everyone had basically understood that Fuzhu was a sly and cunning beast. Even in front of his master, he might not tell the whole truth, so they could not trust him completely. "This little critter is a spirit beast, but of a higher level," Fuzhu explained anxiously. Lin Mu smiled. "Alright, stop explaining. As long as those beasts don't provoke us, we won't kill them. But Fuzhu, are you planning to let us rest here?" "Yes, this place is beautiful. What's wrong with that? Isn't that still sleeping in the open?" Lin Muyu raised her voice and glared at him. "Aren't you going to bring us to your lair? Let us see what the legendary ruler of the water's residence looks like." Fuzhu was stunned. Lin Muyu unsheathed her sword. "If you continue to stammer, we'll kill you and turn you into dried meat. You're not willing to let us see your lair, so I'm sure you want to come back and be the king of the mountain, continuing to harm the innocent?" "This little critter wouldn't dare," Fuzhu shuddered. "But master, if we really want to kill this little critter one day, can you not make dried meat? So uncomfortable. How about steaming it?" "Sure. Stir-frying, pasting, boiling, deep-frying, marinating, smoking, grilling, deep-frying, mixing or drawing. Choose for yourself when you're tired of living. I respect you." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "China has 8 major cuisines and dozens of cooking methods. I'm sure you'll be satisfied." Qin Yin looked at Fuzhu hesitantly and said, "Big brother Yu, how is it going to pull the silk?" Lin Muyu. In the end, Fuzhu had no choice but to submit to the might of the crowd. He led the 4 into the depths of the forest and flew at a low altitude for nearly 10 minutes on a vague mountain path. Finally, they arrived in front of a huge mountain rampart. There was no way forward. "Why is it a dead end?" Qin Yin was surprised. Fuzhu smiled. "Miss Qin Yin, do you know why this place is called Mount Seeking Dragon? Why? The ancient gods in the primordial secret realm also paid particular attention to the dragon vein. They all believed that as long as they could find the dragon vein, cultivating there would yield twice the results with half the effort. The Mount Seeking Dragon happened to be a dragon vein. Countless ancient gods have been buried here for millions of years, and the treasures carried by many god-emperor-level ancient gods were all lost in the Mount Seeking Dragon. After a rare earthquake, the location of the Mount Seeking Dragon changed. It was no longer a dragon vein, but the treasures were still here. The Mount Seeking Dragon that the gods couldn't find became one of the little critters' nests. As he spoke, Fuzhu walked forward and said in a clear voice, "Dragon Seeking Dragon Master, open the door." A low buzzing sound rang out and soon the stone walls began to separate. An irregular pattern appeared on the door, but the 2 giant stone doors remained in their original state as they slowly separated, revealing the secret room inside. "Alright, you can go in now," Fuzhu said. "No, you go first." Xian's wariness towards Fuzhu was unusually strong. Fuzhu could only shrug and smile helplessly. He was considered handsome and elegant, and there were not many women in the 64 domains who could resist his elegance and charm. Many of the domain lord's daughters would rather elope with him, but unfortunately he met Xian, Qin Yin and the others. Xian was a perfect blazing angel, so she didn't even spare him a glance. On the other hand, Qin Yin's eyes of blazing dawn could see through everything. As for Tang Xiaoxi, she was dead set on Lin Muyu, so she didn't stand a chance. In front of this group of people, he was nothing but a ferocious beast with no sense of existence to speak of. In the end, Fuzhu walked at the front while Lin Muyu and the 3 beauties followed closely behind. After everyone entered the secret chamber, the stone door at the back slowly closed. There was no trace of it at all and it was very well hidden. However, the secret chamber was lit up with lights. Upon closer inspection, they were crystals that used the principle of refraction to send light from the outside into the secret chamber. Thus, the secret chamber was as bright as day. "Wow, not bad." Lin Muyu was full of praise as she walked in the secret room. The secret room was located inside the mountain, but it had everything. A hall, a corridor, a staircase, a room, a kitchen, and so on. "This is where you live?" Lin Muyu asked. "Yes, master." Fuzhu replied respectfully. When a spiritual beast's cultivation increases, it can transform into a human form, so this little beast is used to living like a human. It doesn't want to show its true form unless it's in a battle. This little beast has lived here for more than 8,000 years. At the same time, this little beast has also swept all the treasures in the dragon-seeking forest. They're all in the treasury. Master, do you want to take a look? No way. Lin Muyu glanced at him. Would you show your treasury to us so easily? Fuzhu smiled helplessly. Of course not, but since we've already signed the master-servant contract, you're this little beast's master. Moreover, we're already here so we can't hide. Why don't we just tell you and save ourselves another beating? You're becoming more and more sensible. Lead the way, let us see the ancient divine beast Fuzhu's treasury. Yes. Fuzhu stepped into the corridor and slowly pushed open the first small door on the wall. Inside was a bright light. Chests of treasures and gold were piled up in the room. This is the treasury of gold and silver. Although gold and silver are nothing to the gods, it is still the most basic currency in the 64 domains. The little critter still needs it when it transforms into a human. Lin Muyu gulped and said, "There's so much gold, can I take it away?" "As long as master is happy." Fuzhu felt a pain in his heart. He pushed open the door of the second stone room. Immediately a vast aura rushed out. He said in a low voice, "This is the divine weapon treasury. There are many weapons, artifacts, defensive tools and so on used by god emperors. Master, you can choose whatever you like. If you like it, take it away. This little beast won't complain." "Oh, let's go in and take a look." Lin Muyu was still very interested in divine weapons. He led the three beauties into the divine weapon treasury. Rows upon rows of weapon racks were filled with sharp weapons. There were long swords, pikes, battle blades, meteor hammers and so on. As for defensive tools, there were shields, armors, helmets and so on. There was a feast for the eyes. Divine weapons that could attract the attention of a divine beast with a hobby of collecting like Fuzhu were at least first-rank Saint grade. There were even quite a number of substandard divine weapons. The stellar sword in Qin Yin's hand could only be considered to be below average when placed in this pile of weapons. In the boundless universe, Lin Muyu was still far from being able to refine weapons in terms of level. Almost every master craftsman that specialized in refining weapons was above him. Not bad. Lin Muyu's palm gently caressed a sharp sword. She felt a tyrannical divine power flowing into her palm. The power of this sword was slightly stronger than the stellar sword. She couldn't help but ask in astonishment, "What's the origin of this sword?" Fuzhu said, "This sword was once used by a god emperor in the eastern heavenly realm. It was said that it was brought over from another plane. After that, it was refined and forged by a master craftsman in the divine realm. It's incomparably sharp. Its name is, it's called Gongbu sword." Famous sword Gongbu? Yes. It is said that there are two other swords called Longyuan and Tea. However, they were left behind. This little beast couldn't find them either. Lin Muyu frowned. Needless to say, these three swords must have heard of space-time disorder and samsara cycle. That's why they were left behind in the divine realm and entered the secret realm. Otherwise the timing would be wrong. His attention quickly fell on a warhammer. This warhammer was faintly glowing with lightning. There were even some ancient characters engraved on it. When Lin Muyu held the warhammer in his hand, he immediately felt a thick power flowing into his body. It was very exhausting to lift the warhammer. He used almost 70% of his divine power to barely lift the warhammer. Lightning crackled on the tip of the warhammer. "Master, this hammer is..." Fuzhu began to explain. "Don't speak." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "If I'm not wrong, this hammer is the legendary Thunder God's hammer, right?" How did Master know?" "You don't need to know." Lin Muyu slowly put down the warhammer. "Did the Thunder God also come to the prehistoric secret realm?" "No, it is said that the Thunder God was the God Emperor of the Northern Heaven realm. However, he disappeared during the Battle of the Gods, so his hammer was taken to the East Heaven and finally left here." Fuzhu rubbed his nose and smiled. "Master, you don't have to care about this hammer. In terms of sturdiness and weight, it is indeed very strong, but in terms of combat power and divine artifact level, the Xianyuan sword in Master's hand is far above the Thunder God's warhammer. Even the Dig spear in Miss Xiaoxi's hand is much stronger than this hammer. Yes. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, a hammer that can be blocked by Captain Mei's broken shield is indeed not something to look at. If it was the Xianyuan sword, Captain Mei would definitely be GG. Fuzhu was stunned. Master, what does Captain Mei and GG mean? Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. All right Fuzhu, don't listen to him. Big brother you likes to talk to himself sometimes. Fuzhu smiled. Then Master, if you have any weapons you like in this little critter's divine weapons storage, feel free to take them. You are this little critter's master, this little critter will not be stingy. Lin Muyu took the Qingkuan pouch from her waist and looked back at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Hey, what are you two waiting for? Take it all away. Ah. Fuzhu clutched his chest, blood spurting out of his mouth. Chapter 992. 7 days later in the Cave of Gods and Demons. Strands of radiant god force floated around Qin Yin like ribbons. 7 days after Lin Muyu's failure, Qin Yin's attempt to break through to the monarch realm also failed. Her strength regressed a little and she needed more time to cultivate. Fortunately, they had plenty of time in the primordial mystic realm. A month here was equivalent to 3 days in the Shattered Cauldron realm. 22 days later, in the Cave of Gods and Demons, Qin Yin attempted to break through to the monarch realm again. The ice cave was incomparably cold. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi stood on either side of Qin Yin, who was on the verge of breaking through. Xian's cultivation had also increased by quite a bit, so she could stay in the Cave of Gods and Demons for a longer period of time. Qin Yin sat upright on the ice bed. Beams of divine power transformed into flowing lights that penetrated her body and burned her clothes to ashes, revealing her alluring body underneath. Fuzhu, you can leave first, said Lin Muyu. Yes, master. Fuzhu flew out. Even though he was a fierce beast, he was still in the form of a male, so it wasn't a good idea for him to stay here. As for Lin Muyu, there was no need to say much about his relationship with Qin Yin, so it was only right for him to stay here. After all, it was quite dangerous to break through to the monarch realm. Beads of sweat flowed down Qin Yin's cheeks. She had practically used all her strength to break through to the profound martial realm, and a pair of golden wings unfolded behind her back. Shi Yan, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi remained silent. Qin Yin could only rely on herself to break through to the profound martial realm, and no one else could help her. Qin Yin slowly spread out her hands. Her palms were filled with dense light and blazing flames. One was blazing while the other was dark. These were the two branches of the law of light. One was pure light while the other was dark. As Qin Yin's overgod of light, she was the supreme ruler of the entire law of light. Naturally, she had to see through both branches at the same time. When she clasped her hands together, crackling sounds of electricity could be heard. When she clasped her hands in front of her chest, the light grew even brighter. Qin Yin's body trembled slightly, and her long hair fluttered in the wind. Even her overgod overlord emerged, emitting buzzing noises. Success or failure depended on this. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi were so nervous that they couldn't speak. They could only stare at Qin Yin's breakthrough. Buzz buzz buzz. Qin Yin's body trembled even more as she heard the shrill screech. Golden feathers of light flew out from her back amidst the buzzing and agitation. These feathers gathered together in the blink of an eye. In less than 10 seconds they seemed to have condensed into something. Following Qin Yin's sigh, a new pair of golden wings broke out from her back with a dull bang. 4 golden wings. At this moment not only did Qin Yin break through to the celestial large stage, but she had also successfully become a 4-winged angel. Ah! Qin Yin let out a long gasp and then she fainted. Xiaoyin, are you all right? Lin Muyu quickly caught her. Xian was all smiles. Xiaoyin has broken through and she has exhausted all her energy. Hurry up and put some clothes on her. Let's go back to the ground. She can't withstand the low temperature here for now. Okay. Lin Muyu quickly took out a new set of clothes from her universe bag and hurriedly helped Qin Yin change with Tang Xiaoxi. Then she carried Qin Yin and flew out of the Cave of Gods and Demons. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Outside the wind was biting cold. Fuzhu was hiding at the entrance of the ice cave. He craned his neck and asked, Master, has Miss Qin Yin broken through? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. Xiaoyin has exhausted all her energy and needs to rest. let's go back. Yes. After flying for dozens of kilometers, they arrived at Mount Dragon Search. However, the dragon-seeking mountain seemed to be very unusual today. Lin Muyu frowned even before she landed on the ground. Don't you guys feel the aura surging underground? Xian shook her head. My cultivation has dropped too much. I can't feel it. Are you sure you? Yes. Fuzhu also nodded. There is indeed something underground, and there is more than one. Is it someone from the Raging Fire region? Tang Xiaoxi asked. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin in her arms and shook her head. No, this aura is very violent. It should be a wild beast. Fuzhu, what kind of wild beast would be active underground in the 64 domains? That's a lot. Fuzhu pondered. From the primordial divine beast Hun Dun to the spiritual beast earth-drilling rat, there are many. But this aura clearly doesn't belong to Hun Dun. There is only one Hun Dun in the 64 domains, and it died a long time ago. Then what is it? This little beast really doesn't know. Lin Muyu landed slowly with Qin Yin in her arms. She immediately raised her eyebrows. They're coming for us. There are two of them. What should we do? Since they are coming for us, let's just get rid of them. Xian smiled faintly. In any case, don't lure them into the secret chamber. He needs time to recuperate. She can't be disturbed. Okay. Everyone got into formation. Tang Xiaoxi held the Tig's spear while Lin Muyu handed Qin Yin to Xin. She also drew her Xianyuan sword. Deep underground, a tyrannical and violent aura was approaching at a rapid speed. Buzz buzz buzz, the mountain forest began to tremble. Tigers and leopards fled in groups. Mountain birds flew into the sky. It was clear that the newcomer's food chain was definitely above these wild beasts. Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique was like a radar that repeatedly scanned the location of the newcomer. Just as the other party was about to arrive, he suddenly rose from the ground and stabbed the Xianyuan sword into the ground. He shouted, "Every phenomenon in the world, listen to my command." Bang! The elephant will followed the sudden stab of the sword into the depths of the ground. Suddenly, a blood-curdling screech could be heard. Immediately after, the rocky ground dozens of meters away suddenly exploded. The boulder turned into powder and a ferocious head drilled out from the ground. It was followed by a long and wriggling body. It looked like a huge snake. Earth snake. It's an earth snake. Fuzhu said in a low voice. Lin Muyu nodded. This kind of creature was not very rare. It could be found in the Shattered Cauldron realm as well. This species should be very similar to the earth-drilling dragon snake but stronger. There were 27 golden lines on the head of this earth snake, which meant that it was a 27,000-year-old spiritual beast. It could be considered a sacred beast. At least in the dragon-seeking forest of the Qin Empire, it would be at the top of the food chain. Let's finish this quickly. Lin Muyu's figure turned into a bolt of lightning and dashed forward. The long sword in his hand brought out the light of the chaos of the common life. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly disappeared. Her spear, carrying the flames of the great karma fire technique, fell from the sky and devoured the body of the earth snake. Roar! The earth snake's screams were very shrill. How could it withstand the pincer attack of two powerful cultivators? In just a moment, the flesh on its back had been torn open, and its head had been slashed 7 or 8 times by the Xianyuan sword. Even its skull had been smashed, revealing the white brain matter. It had originally intended to hunt, but in the blink of an eye, it had become the prey. Twisting its huge body and shaking its head, the earth snake was already trying to escape by the way it came. But it was too late. Lin Muyu's 5 elements 8 wastelands annihilation instantly tore its huge head apart and killed it instantly. No, master. Fuzhu shouted, but it seemed that it was too late. What's wrong? Lin Muyu asked. Fuzhu frowned and said, this earth snake doesn't look like a wild one. It seems to have been domesticated and used as a hunter to find powerful enemies. Someone is looking for me. It must be someone from the Raging Fire region. We killed the earth snake, so they will be here soon. So be it. Lin Muyu said, there's one more. Hurry up and finish it. Behind them there was a bang. Another earth snake burrowed out of the ground. Fuzhu made up his mind and rushed over. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into his beast form and stabbed his 4 horns into the second earth snake's body. Lightning and fire raged. The earth snake wailed and waved its head, but it died in the blink of an eye. The battle between beasts was really simple and violent. After Lin Muyu quickly dug out the spirit stones, the group quickly left. The secret chamber was about 10 miles away. As long as they controlled their aura well, they would not be discovered. After all, the secret chamber was so well hidden that even a god would have a hard time finding it. In the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin sat facing each other in the secret room. The light from the crystal lamp at the side gradually dimmed. Qin Yin's power had recovered quite a bit. As an expert of the god the Arch realm, her perception seemed to have improved a lot. Her pair of flaming eyes opened slightly and she said with a smile, "Brother you little Shi, someone is coming." "Yes, it's someone from the Raging Fire region," Lin Muyu said confidently. Above them, 3 powerful auras flew past. They really did not find the secret chamber and went straight to the place where the earth snake died. "So powerful." Qin Yin frowned. "How powerful? Xiaoyin, are you sure you can defeat them?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin shook her head. "I might be able to fight the 2 weaker ones to a draw, but I'm definitely not a match for the strongest one. That person should be Dongfang Yan." Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, "I didn't expect that we would offend such a strong opponent so soon after coming to the prehistoric mystery land." Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "The prehistoric mystery land is a place where the strong prey on the weak. We will offend such people sooner or later. There's no need to regret anything. But, Mu, are you sure you can reach the Emperor realm tomorrow?" "Yes, it's been a month since I failed to reach the Emperor realm." Lin Muyu nodded and thought for a while. She looked at the 2 beauties teasingly and smiled. "I believe I won't fail this time. I have at least an 80% chance of winning." "That's good." Qin Yin was pleased. "As long as Brother Yu succeeds, maybe we will have enough chips to challenge Dongfang Yan and the Raging Fire region. It's still difficult. Don't underestimate the Raging Fire region. They have 18 celestial monarchs. If 2 of them attack one of us, we will lose. If more than 6 celestial monarchs come, I'm afraid we will all be wiped out." Lin Muyu's eyes were full of caution. "So we should avoid the Raging Fire region as much as possible and cultivate to the 90th perfection celestial monarch realm as soon as possible. By then it won't be too late to sweep the 64 regions. Brother Yu wants to sweep the 64 regions. This forgotten divine realm has been lost for too long. We will definitely find a way to break the barrier between the prehistoric mystery land and the divine realm. It will be a good thing for the East Heaven realm." Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. "Don't you have any selfish motives?" "As the saying goes, there are." Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly. "I want to take in a portion of the godly experts in the prehistoric mystery land and bring them back to the divine realm. Then I will go to the Shattered Cauldron world and help Brother Feng and Wei Chou end the war between the Shattered Cauldron world and the Celestial Pole continent. The Celestial Pole continent has always had an absolute advantage in terms of the number of godly experts. It's time to reverse this awkward situation." "Yes." Qin Yin nodded. Her beautiful eyes were full of hope. Chapter 993. The night passed uneventfully. Although Qin Yin had succeeded in breaking through to the Emperor realm, her body had suffered some injuries. Lin Muyu practically spent the entire night hugging her to sleep, using her healing abilities to help her recover. Of course she couldn't do much. Xian, Tang Xiaoxi and Fuzhu could only watch helplessly. There was truly no chance. At daybreak they left the secret chamber and flew toward the Cave of Gods and Demons. For Lin Muyu today was a big day. She had to succeed in her second attempt at the Emperor realm. The Cave of Gods and Demons was as cold as ever. This time it was the others' turn to protect Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu slowly sat cross-legged on the ice bed. She had been preparing for close to 2 hours. She cleansed the energy in her body and circulated the formless elephant tactic a few times. Then she ate a peaceful heartberry and began to circulate her divine energy to break through to the monarch realm again. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 12 spirit beads of law burst out of her body, creating an incomparably magnificent sight. Raging flames, whirlwinds, ice, lightning, light and all sorts of law energies formed a small storm around Lin Muyu. The light was faintly discernible, making it seem incomparably magnificent and extraordinary. Even the blazing angel Xian couldn't help but gape in amazement. The Supreme Godhead was a supreme treasure that all gods yearned for, and the Xinchong Emperor who possessed a supreme godhead was actually so eye-catching. Moreover, this time Lin Muyu's strength was much stronger than the last time she broke through to the Emperor realm. After a month of bitter cultivation in the cave of gods and demons, her divine energy had increased by at least 30%. This made Xian look at Lin Muyu in a new light. This sort of endurance and tenacity was truly rare and precious. If it were any ordinary person, they would have broken through to the Emperor realm countless times in the past month. Who could endure this? The power of the 12 laws spun faster and faster, to the point where everyone could already see the constellation of the formless elephant art. Faintly they could hear the roars of mountains and seas, the roars of wild beasts, the wrath of gods and the sounds of mortal worlds collapsing. No one would have thought that Lin Muyu's laws would be able to see through the myriad of phenomena of all living beings. Very quickly, the power of the 12 laws turned into supreme god force and began to break through the profound martial realm. In the beginning, Lin Muyu was still very calm, but very quickly beads of sweat started to form on her forehead, and a pained expression appeared on her face. The Supreme Godhead's God Emperor profound gate seemed to be harder to control, and one could imagine the pressure and pain that Lin Muyu had to endure. At that moment, wisps of aura suddenly appeared outside the cave of gods and demons. Qin Yin frowned and asked, "What's going on?" Fuzhu gritted his teeth. "I'm afraid someone has discovered us. What should we do?" Qin Yin was anxious. Yu's breakthrough to the Emperor realm cannot be affected. Xiaoxi, let's go out and take a look. Looking at Lin Muyu's expression, Qin Yin was even more worried. Her breakthrough to the Emperor realm was not going as smoothly as she had imagined. At this moment Lin Muyu's brows were tightly knitted together, and a blood-colored cyclone appeared on the surface of her body. "What's going on?" Qin Yin asked. Xian was a little flustered. "I also don't know. There seems to be some energy in Yu's body that conflicts with the Supreme Godhead's energy, so even if his energy reaches the required level, he still can't break through to the Emperor realm." Lin Muyu, who was gradually sinking into chaos, opened her eyes. Her body was surrounded by swirling air currents and she said, It's the blood firmament refining. The blood firmament refining's energy is too bloody, and it conflicts with the righteous energy of the formless elephant art. So every time I reach this step, I can't control it and my energy starts to attack. Sister Xian, don't speak. Xian seemed to understand something and she said, "Focus and calm your mind. Success or failure depends on a single thought. The blood firmament refining is your martial art, and you only need to remember that you have never used it to kill a good person. That's enough. Deep in your heart, you cultivate a benevolent heavenly Tao, so don't fall into self-blame. That will only make things worse." Lin Muyu didn't continue speaking and she just gritted her teeth and held on. Xian's gaze swept across them and she said, Xiaoxi, someone is barging in. Be careful, don't let them destroy the cave of gods and demons. This time, Yu's cultivation is even more dangerous than the last time. If he's forcefully interrupted, he might fall into the demonic path, or even lose his cultivation. Wait. Lin Muyu's face was filled with pain and she said, "Xiaoyin, use my Xianyuan sword." Okay. When Qin Yin mentioned the Xianyuan sword next to Lin Muyu, her heart was filled with apprehension. This time she was really nervous. No one knew how many heavenly tribulations there were on the path of cultivation, but it was clear that they couldn't avoid this tribulation in front of them. If they couldn't resolve it, Lin Muyu's path of cultivation would end here. The auras on the corridor of the cave of gods and demons were getting closer and closer. Just as Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi flew to the entrance, they felt a few forces coming toward them. It was a middle-aged man wearing a red robe, and there was a flame emblem embroidered on his robe. He was from the Raging Fire region and there were 4 people flying in behind him. They were all God state experts, 1 God Emperor and the other 4 God Kings. It's really here. The God Emperor raised his eyebrows and his eyes stared straight at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. He smiled and said, "I didn't expect there to be such devastatingly beautiful women in the 64 domains. We didn't come for nothing, huh? Wang Ping, go back and tell the region lord where this place is. I'll take care of these little beauties." But at this moment Qin Yin smiled, and her beautiful face bloomed with a smile that was different from her temperament. "You want to leave? I'm afraid it won't be that easy." Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 4 golden wings spread out behind her and Qin Yin instantly raised her power to the extreme. A wall of light spread out behind the 5 people, sealing their way out. What the hell is this? The god king called Wang Ping suddenly punched the wall of light, but the power of the wall came from Qin Yin, so it didn't move. In the entire world, there was probably no god king who could shake the wall of light created by Qin Yin, the master god of light. Yo! The red-robed god emperor's gaze swept over Qin Yin and he smiled. A beauty who just stepped into the god emperor realm. Interesting. Wang Ping, there's no need to leave. We'll take care of them here today and then report back to the Raging Fire region. Yes. Who are you? Tang Xiaoxi asked. There's also a hot beauty. The red-robed god emperor smiled and said, there's no harm in telling you. I'm Deacon Qiu Yao under the region lord of the Raging Fire region, Dongfang Yan. These four are Wang Ping, Li Tai, Murongjia and Nangong Ling. Can you tell me who you are now? Who is the source of the energy waves in the depths of the cave of gods and demons? Mind your own business. Qin Yin swung her sword and rushed forward, and the Xianyuan sword slashed at Qiu Yao with a split light. You're courting death. Qiu Yao roared angrily, and the flames in his hand surged as he clashed with Qin Yin's Xianyuan sword. Meanwhile, Tang Xiaoxi quickly transformed into her nine-tailed form, and fought with the four god kings. Flames and light intertwined, and the corridor at the entrance of the cave of gods and demons became a battlefield in the blink of an eye. Inside the cave of gods and demons, the blood-colored vortex around Lin Muyu's body became denser and denser. His expression was one of extreme pain. He forcefully used the invisible elephant art to protect his heart, but it became more and more difficult. The violent aura caused by the heavenly blood-refining art kept attacking his meridians, and in the blink of an eye, a meridian on his arm exploded with a pop. Shi Yan instantly panicked. How could this be? How could this be? How can I help you? Lin Muyu clenched his teeth and said in a muffled voice, Sister Xian, the depths of my soul thirsts for blood. I thirst for slaughter. What should I do? What should I do? Thirst for blood. Shi Yan stood up, and the blazing moon sword quickly appeared in her hand. She slashed at her wrist and immediately strands of blood turned into blood chains that lingered around Lin Muyu. However, this made Lin Muyu feel even more pain. Shi Yan's blood was like scorching lava and it was unbearable. No. Lin Muyu's thoughts were a little chaotic. He swept out with his palm, and as he dispersed the blood chains, he also slammed Shi Yan into the ice pillar behind him, and blood spurted out of his mouth. What should I do? Shi Yan supported the blazing moon sword and stood up again. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and looked at Lin Muyu worriedly. At the side, Fuzhu was very calm. He said, Lord Blazing Angel, I've heard of Master's past. Master has been fighting in his plane for many years, and for the unification of the Empire he has killed countless people. He lives such a life every day, but he still maintains the last bit of kindness. Master's path is to eradicate the strong and help the weak and to put on armor and slaughter. This path is paved with the blood of enemies and evildoers. Lord Blazing Angel, your blood is not the blood of evildoers, so naturally you can't help Master break through. You mean? Shi Yan was stunned. You need the blood of evildoers? Yes, Lord Blazing Angel has been in the Western Divine Realm for so many years. Don't you know about blood sacrifice? Yes, blood sacrifice. It's blood sacrifice. Shi Yan gritted her teeth and said, You must hold on, the evildoers are coming. Then Shi Yan said in a low voice, Xin Yu and Xiaoxi, come in quickly. If they want to come, let them come. In the outside world, Qin Yin was stunned. Then Shi and Tang Xiaoxi retreated at the same time, and in the blink of an eye they entered the ice cave. How could Qiu Yao and the others let the cooked duck fly away? They all chased after them, but they didn't know that they had inadvertently become someone else's sacrifice. Just as Qiu Yao and the others flew into the ice cave, Shi Yan had already pushed all of her power into the realm of a six-winged angel, and with the blazing moon sword in her hand she struck out 2 consecutive attacks at lightning speed. Destruction. Mercy. If Shi Yan was at her peak, she could kill a 72 heavenly abode celestial emperor like Qiu Yao with a little finger. But now she only had less than 1,000th of her peak cultivation. Even so, she still used her powerful mental cultivation to activate mercy. In an instant, Qiu Yao and the others couldn't move. Shi Yan still had this ability. King Xiaoxi kill. Mercy. The defense of absolute domain made Qiu Yao and the others unable to move for a short period of time. The Xianyuan sword was raised, and the 5th strike of Shi Yan's 7 slashes. Expiation. The sword light flashed and the 4 celestial kings were chopped into 2 at the waist. On the other hand, Tang Xiaoxi's Dig's spear forcefully pierced into Qiu Yao's heart with the great karmic fire sutra's god force. The Hong god force exploded and Qiu Yao was directly injured. Originally, even if Qiu Yao and the others were pinned down by Xian, they wouldn't be killed instantly. But their bad luck was that the weapons used by Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were all divine weapons, and they were able to pierce through the divine wall directly. Swoosh, swoosh. Under the control of Xian's power, streams of fresh blood flowed around Lin Muyu. Immediately Lin Muyu's body trembled and her supreme godhead shone brightly. The descent of the blood of the wicked was like rain after a long drought, nourishing her dried-up body. Chapter 994. Hiss, hiss. Streams of blood evaporated in the air around Lin Muyu. Qiu Yao, who was on the verge of death, was dumbfounded by what he saw. What is this? Are you a devil? Lin Muyu didn't answer. He was suffering from the pain of breaking through to the monarch realm, so how could he answer Qiu Yao's question? However, Lin Muyu's heart was filled with coldness. He had never thought that he would have such a bloodthirsty nature in the depths of his body. He had never experienced this kind of bloodlust before. Could it be that after experiencing so many battles over the years, the bloodlust that he had been suppressing finally broke out at this moment? When he thought of this, the flames around him started to become violent and chaotic. Shi Yan hastily shouted, "You, calm your mind, don't let your imagination run wild, be the real you, don't let any evil influence you." Lin Muyu rose to his feet and knelt on the ice bed. The flames around him coiled around him like swimming dragons. He let out a miserable groan and looked at Xian, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others with his pale golden eyes. "Be the real you, kill those who deserve to be killed." Qiu Yao murmured in his heart, desperately urging all the energy in his body to suppress the bloodlust in his heart. Finally, the blood-red flames around him were extinguished and his mind became clear. In the next moment, an endless stream of energy returned to his qi from his godhead. This was a power that he had never felt before. Moreover, Lin Muyu could clearly feel that there was an additional power in her body that could control spacetime. That's right, it was the samsara power. It was a unique ability of celestial thearchs, just that there were differences in strength. Plop. Qiu Yao knelt heavily on the ground. The blood on his chest had almost dried up. Even from the outside, one could see the beating of his heart. Tang Xiaoxi's attack was very accurate, and this God Emperor Realm expert's life was about to come to an end. Who are you people? Qiu Yao raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu and the others with a blank expression. A group of people who are being hunted by you. Xian sneered. Lin Muyu asked, "Do you people from the Raging Fire territory really want to kill us? You're with Fuzhu?" Qiu Yao coughed intensely, blood spurting out of his mouth. His entire body trembled as he said, Please protect my heart meridians. As long as I can return to the Raging Fire region alive, I will explain everything to the leader of the Raging Fire region. We will bury the hatchet, what do you think?" Lin Muyu laughed. "Do you think we're 3-year-olds? Qin Yin opened her flaming eyes and said, "Just now outside the cave of gods and demons, your attacks were ruthless and deadly. Is there any use in begging for mercy now? If Xiaoxi and I had begged for mercy just now, would you have spared us?" A trace of cruelty flashed across Qiu Yao's face. He knew that he wouldn't be able to live. He grinned and said, Of course, you and that girl are both peerless beauties. As long as you beg for mercy, I will definitely spare your lives. However, the price is that you will become my exclusive slaves and I will play with you. You're courting death." The Xianyuan sword in Qin Yin's hand flashed, and Qiu Yao's head flew into the sky. Lin Muyu was speechless. "You killed him before we even finished asking questions. Xiaoyin, you're too hot-tempered," Qin Yin pouted. "He humiliated me in Xiaoxi. Aren't you angry?" "I am angry. I will kill him sooner or later. But it doesn't matter. The Raging Fire region has already shed all pretenses of cordiality with us. There will be a big battle in the future." As she spoke, Lin Muyu's face brimmed with confidence. She was no longer the Lin Muyu from yesterday. She was an expert who had officially stepped into the God Emperor realm. Her understanding of power had reached a whole new level. Beside her, Shi Yan carefully gathered the 5 godheads. She frowned and said, "Unfortunately, there's only one caste immortal godhead. The rest are all mortal godheads." "That's not bad. You can increase your divine power quite a bit after refining them, Lin Muyu said. Qin Yin's frown relaxed. She returned the Xianyuan sword to Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Congratulations, big brother Yu. You've stepped into the God Emperor realm. How is it? It feels good, right?" "It feels good," Lin Muyu said happily. "Xiao Yin, how's your mastery of the reincarnation wheel?" "It's just a little bit of power. It's very weak. I think it can only reverse time for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. It's nothing compared to those consummate God Emperors who can travel hundreds of years." "That's not bad." Lin Muyu brushed off the frost on her body and said, "What do we do now?" Qin Yin looked at the ground. "Get rid of these corpses. Then we'll leave the cave of gods and demons. We'll hide in a secret room and cultivate for a few days. Let's lay low for now. Otherwise we'll be targeted by the raging fire region again." Okay. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu and the others also cultivated in the secret room for 3 days. They refined 3 godheads to help Tang Xiaoxi and Xian improve their cultivation. Tang Xiaoxi was now at the 57th Grotto Heaven realm. It wouldn't be long before she tried to break through to the God Emperor realm. At dusk, the setting sun reflected the outline of the Dragon Mountain on the ground. It was especially quiet. In the forest, tigers and leopards also returned to their nests with their prey in their mouths. On the treetop, a figure lightly floated down. It was Lin Muyu. He landed on a withered tree that looked like an old man in the Dragon Mountain. This short tree seemed to be dead, but Lin Muyu could feel the vitality in the tree. He waved his hand and used his divine power to split the bark. Sure enough, a row of black round apple-sized fruits appeared in front of him. Ink jade fruit, one of the spiritual fruits in the 64 domains. The outer shell of the ink jade fruit was hard, but the fruit inside was as clear as jade. After eating it, it could quickly increase the strength of divine power. If cultivated properly, it could yield twice the result with half the effort. There was a total of 7 ink jade fruits. Lin Muyu happily picked all of them and placed them into her cosmos sack. Then she carefully covered them with the tree bark. In a few more years they should bloom and bear fruit again. Roar! Not far away a low roar came. The prey that Lin Muyu had been chasing for half an hour finally appeared. It was a grizzly bear that was more than 10,000 years old. It was also Lin Muyu's dinner. The grizzly bear stared at the enemy with its gloomy eyes. It knew that it couldn't avoid it, so it waved its sharp claws and pounced over. Flames began to cover its whole body. Its speed was getting faster and faster, like an arrow leaving the bow. If it was an expert below the godly state, he or she would have died from this attack. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu was already a true God Emperor. Moreover, she was a God Emperor with a Supreme Being's Godhead. She suddenly opened her right hand and condensed it into a palm. Waves of invisible domain power accumulated in the palm. When the grizzly bear launched a fatal blow, Lin Muyu met it with a palm. Bang! The grizzly bear's lightning-fast speed was forcefully interrupted, and its body fell onto the grass like a huge rock. It spat out a mouthful of blood and died. It was obvious that its heart meridian had been shattered. After stepping into the God Arch realm, Lin Muyu's control over spatial laws had greatly increased. The strength of this palm strike was comparable to Han Shu's back then. Carrying the grizzly bear's body, Lin Muyu jumped up and flew in the direction of the secret room. When he came to the front of the secret room, he looked from afar. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had already started a fire in the call beside the secret room. Although they were gods, they couldn't always eat raw food. It was still necessary to start a fire. According to Ziyao, there were many god state experts in East Heaven who didn't pay attention to their diet. They were usually cruel and violent. They ate raw human flesh and drank beast blood. As a result, they got gastroenteritis from indigestion. They were in so much pain every day. However, they had eternal life and couldn't die. Needless to say, it was miserable. Although Lin Muyu felt that the 7 luminaries demon emperor was talking nonsense with a straight face, she still believed it. Anyway, it wasn't a bad thing. Xianxia. Lin Muyu descended from the sky and threw the grizzly bear's body on the ground. She smiled and said, "We can stew bear paw soup tonight." Okay. Qin Yin smiled and said, "Big brother Yu, we still lack some onions and garlic. What should we do?" "Where can I find them?" "I'll make do." "Okay." Fuzhu hugged his knees as he sat on a nearby hill. His deep eyes gazed into the distance as if he was a peerless god standing on 1,000 feet. Of course, the truth of the matter was that he was responsible for keeping watch here. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to eat dinner. However, Fuzhu was indeed a refined ancient beast. His ethereal aura was not something that could be faked by ordinary people. 4 bear paws were thrown into the pot. Not long after, a very tempting aroma spread out. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were already hungry. They hadn't had a proper meal for many days. But at this moment Fuzhu suddenly warned, "Master, someone broke in. They're coming very fast." The intruder's aura rushed straight in the direction of the secret room. Lin Muyu said, "Don't worry, it's one of us. They should be from the Spirit Sparrow territory. They know our specific location." Lightning flashed and a person jumped down from the empty grassland. It was the Spirit Sparrow region's vice-region lord, Feng Zhanhai. He was in a very sorry state. The soft armor in front of his chest had been torn apart, and he was covered in blood. There was a ghastly sword wound on his left leg. After he landed, he staggered and could barely stand. "What's going on?" Lin Muyu rushed forward to support him. Feng Zhanhai said angrily, "Lin General, the Raging Fire territory is attacking the Spirit Sparrow territory. Many of our people have already been killed or injured." "Why did they suddenly attack the Spirit Sparrow territory? Weren't you guys in harmony before?" Feng Zhanhai said. Dongfang Yen said that 5 God Realm experts went missing in the Spirit Sparrow territory, including the God Emperor Qiu Yao. He suspects that they were plotted against by our people. So, Dongfang Yen said that if we don't hand over the people, they'll flatten the Spirit Sparrow territory within 3 days. Lin Muyu was stunned. She and Qin Yin looked at each other speechlessly. Feng Zhanhai also saw the clues. "Lin General, what's going on? Qiu Yao and the others were killed by us." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "Deputy Territory Lord, I'll go with you and explain to Dongfang Yen. If he's angry, he can take it out on me." Feng Zhanhai was stunned. Then, "Okay, when do we leave?" "We'll leave after eating."